Hey kids, you're listening to the internet's wettest podcast about video games, consoles, and pancakes. The SML Podcast.
What's up, everybody? This is the SML Podcast. I am your host, Joe. We've got a PartyCast later on in the show, but we're going to start things off with Brooke. Brooke, how are you doing?
What up? I'm pretty good, man. How are you?
I'm good. You're not going to be part of the PartyCast later because you got some traveling to do, but I got you here. So, hi.
And this is going to be my final act. I was just too excited about this vampire game with a bunny on the cover. I had to join, even though we're taking off like right after this. But I'm so happy I could make it because I really enjoyed this.
The Uber's outside waiting for you right now.
And he can just wait. It's going to be a while.
The hell with him. We got people to talk to from Party for Introverts. We've got Arseniy.
Hi.
And Laura.
Nice to be here. Thanks for having us.
How are you two doing today?
We're doing really well. Yeah. Just, enjoying our Saturday evening and definitely ready to talk about our game that, has been kind of a bit of a secret for so many years for us. So it's nice that it's finally out in the world now.
Yeah, and it's going to be a nice break from programming.
Yeah.
Well, for the people who don't know who you are, give us a quick rundown of who you are and why you're on the show.
Yeah, so we're a Party for Introverts. I'm Laura, and this is Arseniy, and we're the co-founders. And yeah, we have a game coming out next year, our first full-length video game entitled Cabernet. And it's a narrative RPG game, and we're just really excited. We just announced several weeks ago now. So just seeing it kind of bits of it trickle out into the world as people get to see bits of it for the first time.
Yeah, really nice time. Feeling pretty positive about all this.
Yeah.
For the people who haven't heard what Cabernet is, give us the sales pitch.
Cabernet, it's a 2D narrative RPG about vampires in 19th century Eastern Europe. This is a short version of a pitch, I guess, like a log line, but it took us a little while to condense it to this. There is a lot of stuff omitted in this description.
For sure, because one of our biggest things is kind of how it goes a little bit over and is spread over a couple genres. Yeah. So it's been kind of hard to kind of define exactly how we were going to entitle it. So we're calling it a narrative RPG at this point.
Now, that's what we decided.
I think that's fair.
Brooke, what caught your eye with this game?
Well, of course. I mean, we have like a beautiful aristocratic 19th century lady. The art style looks great. She's got blood coming out of her mouth and it's dripping onto her pet bunny. I'm a bunny owner and I love to play visual novels. I thought it looked really good. And I said, I'd love to play this, Joe.
Thanks. The logo art, we have some great artists we work with. Our one artist, Emily, kind of took our vision and ran with it for the logo. And I personally love bunnies. We're calling them bunnies, not rabbits, because it sounds even cuter. I had a pet bunny growing up. So definitely a lot of love put into that image and sadness as well.
Yeah. Yeah, just to be clear, there is no kind of grotesqueness to that. We very much care for animals. Yeah, I'm a vegetarian for many years. Yeah. It's just that this is a part of the message.
It's part of the moral choice of what you choose to do.
That vibe came through. I mean, it feels like love from the cover. The bunny feels like a partner, even though I didn't experience a bunny firsthand in the preview build that we played. I don't know if maybe it comes later, but definitely didn't get that impression, and it just looked really cute.
Well, thanks for playing the preview. Yeah, it definitely is a thing. So the preview's pretty, as you see, a little bit more linear, and then we kind of next chapter, it's a little more semi-open world where that becomes a thing that pops up. Yeah.
And yeah,
That's cool.
super nice, to see, people starting to play, when we sent it out to journalists and stuff, because before we were kind of cooped up in our own world, couldn't tell about the game, didn't know anything about how people are gonna take it, and so far we're very grateful for the response.
I gotta jump back a quick second. Brooke, I love that you saw a woman holding a pet and blood just dripping down onto it, where I saw a potential meal.
And that does sum up a good difference between us.
I mean, that's perfect, because that's very much the intent and very much a choice one can have in the game. You never actually have to kill a bunny in the game. You might have to. Really. You don't technically have to kill anybody in the game. And that's definitely one way to play. You can, but you don't have to.
Yeah, it's not trivial, but yeah.
Yeah.
I love that
is there a morality system in the game that comes down to
can talk for years about that.
Tell us a little bit about it.
Well, so morality system works in a way. It's kind of funny because we literally just released a TikTok video on morality system.
Cool.
But essentially, the point is, we believe in our characters' ability to make different decisions at different times, but at the same time, we didn't want the character to kind of be goody two shoes for the whole day and then just run amok last minute, which would be kind of inconsistent with the character. So we introduced this morality system, which includes 2 bars. There is a humanity bar and there is nihilism bar. And, it's not necessarily good or bad. It's more of, compassionate, empathetic choices, and then chaotic and egoistic choices, if, you can put it that way.
Very interesting.
So instead of having, like in Red Dead Redemption, for example, which, again, brilliant game, in the sequel, the morality system, and, in many other games, is kind of a scale. So you go up or you go down, and, like, if you do something, you're a better cowboy. If you do something bad, you're a worse cowboy. And in our situation, you only go up. You don't go down in those 2 bars, and essentially that reflects the opinion that good things that you do, they don't negate the bad things that you do, and vice versa. Those things stay with you and they impact how you can continue going forward.
I really love the humanity versus nihilism. That's one of the main things I wanted to talk to y'all about and ask you how you came up with that idea. I thought it was almost like, at times in the story, the part that we experience of it is just like, it can be funny. And I like that at first when the bar's introduced, you're like, oh, here are my stats, humanity versus nihilism. And it's made really clear, even if you aren't familiar with the concept of nihilism before the game, that sometimes the nihilistic choice isn't really the worst social choice, or isn't even like an unkind choice. There's that moment where one of the characters is really beating themselves up about something bad that happened, and you can tell them, don't worry about it, these things happen, but because of the nature of the act, that's still a nihilistic choice. But it helps you improve your relationship with that character, and it does show empathy. And like, that's really was the moment I wanted to like bring up and ask more about the concept and how you came up with it.
Yeah, that's a good point that you made. And also about like how you bond with characters is another big part of our game. Character storylines are a big part. And so some characters are going to react better towards a more chaotic answer or chaotic choice. So it's not just balancing, your own linear path of, good, bad. Mm-hmm. It's also how do your decisions or what you say or whatever, how do other people experience them, or how does it impact them as well? So, thanks for noticing that.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not
cool.
Kind of like you do this and then there is like a clear outcome. Again, we're kind of trying to make it a little grayer, it's just, there are a lot of thoughts, I had in my mind, a lot of things that we brainstormed with Laura and some of our other writers that just make it really complicated to just label a decision good or bad occasionally. We had one particular side quest, we're not going to spoil it yet, but it was just a bog of thought, because basically you can't label either of those things. But we do need to, follow the gameplay, right? And we need to adjust the scale some way or the other. So we had to come up with some interesting solutions there. It's, there is a lot of philosophy kind of involved in this.
That's cool. It's easy to see how a character would get really philosophical about just being turned into a vampire and all the shock that comes with that, but having to adjust to that lifestyle too. Yeah, I just thought that was super neat. That was probably my favorite part of the game so far.
Thank you. Yeah, there's going to be a lot of play with that.
Mm-hmm. Will there be any... Oh, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. I was going to ask how you pronounce the character's name. Is it Liza or Lisa?
Lisa. Yeah, it's nice that you even had that other option. Obviously, being in the UK, Liza is more of the name, but it's we pronounce it Lisa. Yes, yeah. But we don't mind, as long as you follow the character and you empathize with her in some way. You can call her however you like.
Mm-hmm. I got lucky because Sorry.
Before we got too far, I wanted to ask if there were any kind of storyline, like perks or rewards, if you stray one way too far or the other with those gauges. Max one out. Is there some story branch that you won't find any other way, or if you keep it minimized the whole time, is there something that opens up that might get locked off?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a really good question, because it is kind of, sometimes it's about balance between the two, and for sure there are different endings. That, for example, if you play the game one way the entire time, it's not going to be available to you. But I think we do try to keep a little bit of flexibility sometimes in the middle ground when you do a little bit of both. But for sure, there's multiple endings that will impact. And also potentially befriending side characters. I think that's a really big part of our game. You don't technically have to do it, but I think really kind of exploring the different characters in the eventual town you'll get to enriches the story, and your morality will impact, in some cases, maybe their story, or essentially if you can even continue your story with them. So anything to add on that?
Well, yeah, it's like Laura said, we have this main story, and there are branches there that will lead to different endings as well. However, that's not the only important thing. I think every RPG player kind of noticed a while ago that side quests are a particular joy, and for many it's probably even a higher priority than the main story. And we kind of were inspired by the little things, the little moments that can happen with your, in your life with those characters. So there's particularly this system that I particularly admired in the Walking Dead series. In Telltale, I mean. So they introduced at some point the character tracker that tells you how the character feels in the end of the episode or the game based on your interactions with this person. So it doesn't necessarily make a big branch. It doesn't give you a huge new cutscene or something. It just tells you in the end, based on those interactions, this character was devastated with you or something like that. And
Jim
I
thought
feel like
you were a dick.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, but it doesn't mean that you're a dick in general, right? It doesn't mean that, you killed everybody. It doesn't mean that, the story changed massively. It means that your personal interaction with this character is not the same. And
maybe even picked what one would consider being the more humane answer, and it caused this negative impact.
Yeah. So basically, we thought it's really powerful, and we kind of built a lot of branches with our characters that, they're not necessarily gonna change the whole story, but they are gonna make an impact to the player, hopefully, like it does to us.
That's cool.
I feel like that really comes through in this build, honestly. I think it's evident it's going to be that kind of game, and it's pretty exciting. I've played some Telltale games before. I really love that Lisa She just seems like a good person. You know, she can't really drink from the victim the first time that she's come across it, and it's really easy to play her as someone who's trying to be really empathetic. And I love how often like the nihilistic choices line up with that, even if you RP it out and you're trying to be the good guy. I thought it was really neat.
Thanks. Yeah, I think that was at least from my end, like very conscious to, at least in this, the first prototype, the first chapter, we'll call it, not to have her immediately drain the character. Yeah. I think there's something for us. We're all really about story and emotional beats. Yeah. That's kind of like the whole ethos of our company. The games we made before this have all been just very short, 15-minute. We've called them interactive short stories. So there's kind of a balance with this game between essentially having like this narrative that we really care about, because that's what we've always done. So we want you to get an idea of who this character is, but then also feel like you have kind of a little bit more choice and ability to kind of go your own path once you're kind of introduced to the world. So it was pretty intentional to not have her just like attack someone immediately.
It was a tricky balance, by the way, because essentially the player knows that this is going to be a vampire game. So there is no point in kind of pretending that none of this is happening, or at least for a long time to do that. But at the same time, we didn't want Lisa to be too jaded from the beginning, right? So like especially given that the player is still yet to decide their morality and how it's going to shape. So it's been a little tricky. I'm glad it kind of worked for people so far. So hopefully there's going to be even more agency later on.
Yeah. And to point out that Lisa is kind of a character with her own story. Our game is definitely a lot less than some RPGs, which not better or worse, but a little bit less of a blank slate. She comes to this with her own history and baggage, and you'll get to see some of that in the story that's kind of like deeply rooted in kind of like the through line of morality and some big themes we're playing with.
Yeah, it's a mix. It's not the game was not designed with the complete freedom in mind. We didn't want to make a complete open world, complete blank slate, do whatever you want type of thing. We definitely had an agenda. We definitely had a feeling we wanted to convey, some thoughts we wanted to convey, and that's why there's definitely going to be a lot of choice, but it's still going to be a story we wanted to tell, not completely blue sky,
How long of a story do you think, or do you anticipate this being for most players? I know you said your previous releases were like 15-minute interactive short stories. Is this going to be like an hour or two, or are you looking more like 10 plus hours?
Yeah, I'm glad you asked that, because this is such a much bigger undertaking for us. So you played the prototype, which that is about pretty consistently around 40 minutes.
If you actually read it,
a quick click through, a consistent click through of it is about 40 minutes, and that's chapter 1 of 8 essentially. So, nice. And that's not including side quests, or any character quests. So we have 1,000 pages of script so far.
Ooh.
So definitely closer beyond, between 5 and 10 hours we're going to anticipate. But
that being said, we're talking about, when we say 1,000-page script, we're not talking about just it being main story. There's a lot of, side character stuff that players don't even have to get into if they don't want to. Still, it's going to be multiple hour playthrough for sure.
Yeah.
Nice.
When did development start on this?
Ooh, sorry, can you repeat that?
Brooke, do you want to take it? I'd cut you off again.
Oh, sorry. I was just saying, Joe, 40 minutes is 2 hours for me. So that's an insane value for me. It took me about 2 hours my first playthrough. And I changed a couple things and played through it again.
I was asking.
We appreciate that.
I was asking, when did development start on this game?
Lines are blurry.
So we kind of, I can give you the little bit of the backstory. So we always kind of wanted to make a vampire game. I mean, I've known him for 10 years about at this point. And one of the first things I knew about him was how much he loved vampires, whether that be in, movies, games, comics. Definitely a love was always there.
You have a favorite vampire?
Ooh.
I mean,
talk for you, but
there is a number, yeah.
I mean, I just know that he that was one of the first things I knew about him, that he loved like Morbius, the comic book character, just to be really specific. And honestly, at that point, I actually didn't even know who Morbius was, and he had all these like screen names and stuff that were Morbius. So
that's true.
That was a defining thing when I first met you. But so we always kind of wanted to make a vampire game, but the thing is we don't really make games that don't have a through line or a specific theme. So we weren't just going to kind of be like, we're making a vampire game, let's go. We really had to wait till there was something we wanted to say and some kind of like emotional story we wanted.
Yeah. We had a prototype of a vampire game many years ago, like, I don't know, maybe 6 years or something like that. But this was not Cabernet. This was kind of like a much more like fun-oriented thing. But like Laura said, this didn't actually mean too much to us because we're emotion-driven. So yeah, I would say the way it shaped up to be what it is, maybe it was 2019, something like that.
2019, I think.
Like that's when we understood what we want to do with it and where we want to go.
Yeah, and we found kind of our theme and our through line. Which one of the thematic elements, there's obviously a couple you'll get to experience, but one of them is the concept of alcoholism. And it's kind of a running plot and story point throughout, as well as we kind of put it a little bit into our mechanics as well. Want to talk about that?
Yeah,
it's not a spoiler at this point, right? I can't remember what we revealed.
Again, we have to.
I was going to bring that up if y'all didn't, so I'm glad you're going to.
Yeah, it is a big theme. Growing up in kind of the eastern part of the world, alcohol serves quite a lot of purpose in there, and I guess in the rest of the world as well. But essentially, we wanted to engage it into gameplay, kind of put this into some mechanics. And just to be clear, this is not in any way kind of a medical analysis. It's not, accurate to actual points. It's more of an emotional interpretation of the concept of alcoholism. And we thought, vampires are pretty much one of the best metaphors for this there can be, because you rely on drinking. It makes you feel better, but it also is a dependency, and it also hurts other people and hurts yourself. And there's tons of material in there to explore.
And figure out the balance, because as we mentioned, you don't actually have to kill anyone or anything in our game, depending on how you play it. And it was really important for us that the mechanic of how you can feed is you have to befriend, then enchant, and then you can feed. So for a human, if you get to that point where you enchant them, it doesn't really hurt them if you only take a certain amount of blood. So it's kind of about moderation that.
It does hurt them. It's just
but you don't get nihilism for that.
Exactly.
So that's why there's kind of like a sliding scale of you can enchant a human. So therefore, if you moderate and take only what you need and don't hurt them to such an extent, you don't get nihilism. You can't enchant a rabbit, unfortunately. So because of that, there is a pain and a harm to it. So you get a little bit of nihilism. Then obviously killing a human is a step above that. So there's kind of a spectrum. And then if you drink too much, there's the mechanic of intoxication, which gives you a temporary boost, but then a permanent decrease after the fact. So we kind of wanted to just, superficially, as he said, not medically, but kind of emotionally mimic the journey of, consuming too much. And then there being kind of gradual, slow repercussions over time.
Yeah, and the morality system obviously is quite entwined into this, and there was a lot of discussion and thought into what actually causes those things, because you do hurt people, but you also need to survive, and you kind of need to make some choices.
I also want to ask how we pronounce the character's name. Trophim.
Trophim.
I want to bring him up.
Yeah. So we're obviously still kind of in development, and I think we might have decided on that, but we're in this really unique place where it's still being crafted. So everything can be changed a little bit or tweaked. I'm not sure if we settled on that one for him, but
yeah, we're playing around with names. But yeah.
So maybe we'll pick an easier to pronounce name later down the line.
Oh, I bring it up because I want to talk about him, but I don't want to say it wrong and sound stupid. But I thought he was such a cool character because we're dealing with alcohol and dependency themes in this narrative, metaphorically from this vampire's perspective. But we're also using him, our potential first victim, to show that there's a world in this game where you could use your vampire brainwashing powers for good and enchant someone and be like, hey, you should drink less, man. You should cut back on the alcohol. And it's a little funny and sad, but it's also just a really smart way to show that, hey, this game's going to have moral choices in this narrative, but it's going to be deeper and maybe a little more painfully nuanced than you think. And for that to show up in the preview build is just a really cool nod to what this game's trying to do. I thought that was one of my favorite parts too.
Thank you.
It's just with the fact that you can do that, and it was very important to have that choice. There's also a choice there with certain amount of nihilism points to make him drink even more, and nice. This is
tragic,
kind of diabolical. Yeah, so one of the first things that player can get to choose if they decide to. So a lot of options for how you feel as a
and even in that option, we're not going to spoil too much, but it can potentially alter their ending based upon what you pick in that moment. And I think the things are going to be a little bit more subtle in terms of you might not necessarily remember that choice you made at the very beginning is going to impact the very end of the character. I think that we're trying to make it feel a little more organic. It's not all the time that this choice is going to completely alter your game. So it'll be nice if you do a couple of playthroughs of the game and you realize, oh, this thing did something a little bit different at the end. We want it to feel a little bit more organic and a little less always in your face.
I think that's a good point. We do subtlety as much as we can afford it, and I feel quite a lot of our choices are going to be more meaningful. If you talk with a person in your regular life and, you don't really have life-changing conversations all that much, but every conversation leaves some sort of an emotional impact on you, or at least many conversations do. And this is, we want to bring this to the game. Not everything is going to have, mind-blowing difference that's going to happen. Some of those are just going to be bad interactions. You're going to feel worse about yourself or the other person, or you're gonna, it's going to make your day or something. And, it's not anything substantial. So it's important for us to have small choices and small moments as much as it is important to tell this big story that we have in mind for a main quest.
Yeah, and we hope you like and can empathize or find something interesting at least about the characters, because we're quite partial to them. We quite like our characters in the game. So that's a big part of our game, as mentioned before, for better or worse. Because a lot of them aren't necessarily good or bad on the scale.
No. Bun buns were mentioned a few times. Can you pet them?
As of right now, that's not a mechanic. But there might.
Come on.
I know, but we're currently planning for you to be able to.
Don't talk too much.
No. We think there might be something in the game you can pet.
There might be something in the game.
Yeah. That's a current plan. So for
as long as there's something you can pet in the game, and it's got to have an achievement too, right?
I don't want to absolutely commit, but I do understand how important this is. But that is the plan right now. So don't worry, there will be something along those lines.
Yeah,
very
hopefully,
good. Very good. That's the hard-hitting questions we get.
Yeah. I get it though. Again, I had a rabbit growing up. I want to pet the rabbit too. So hey, you never know.
I'm a cat guy myself. I've got a way too many cats.
Oh, okay.
How many cats do you have?
Oh,
is it way too many? How was way too many?
Brooke, should I get into this?
Get into it. Let's bring it up.
We are officially, the wife and I have to stress, I am married. So I'm not just a lonely cat.
So
guy.
half are hers, half are yours.
Yes.
Okay.
We are at 15
Wow.
15.
Yes.
That's lovely. It's like an animal rescue
it
over
It's a
there.
lot. Yeah.
It is basically a
We're
rescue at
offline.
this point. We just got our 15th 2 weeks ago. We brought him in. His name is Petunia because we thought it was a girl, but it's not a girl, and the name Petunia was there for a while, so it stuck.
Well,
I like
it. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
He,
Well, congratulations. Congratulations. Lovely new little family member. I don't know how little the cat is, but
so yeah, I like Kitty.
okay.
As long as there's something to pet in the game, I'm happy.
Okay, yeah. Keeping that in mind for
we'll
sure. And that
definitely
is
take that feedback.
we love it. Actually, that's something that's been really fun is that, like, we have some TikTok videos out or whatever, and we've been asking for some feedback for, like, whether that be a romance or, we can't incorporate everything, but it's still really useful as we're in the thick of development still. We still got plenty to do, plenty of things that can be, tweaked, we'll say.
What kind of good feedback have you gotten so far?
We were, I guess not surprised, but there was
I was surprised.
The romance?
Yeah.
There was a really, really big interest in kind of allowing some of these character interactions to have potential romantic endings. And in fairness, we talked about how odd our game is in terms of genre, and visual novel is definitely a thing that is popping up for people a lot. And I think there's a whole group kind of community out there who are interested in those graphic novels that enjoy the visual novels that enjoy kind of what we're doing. So they were really into the romance options, and we might add a couple. We actually had a couple more in mind already. There's 2 confirmed, but we hope to expand on that, and we already had some ideas before. So it's been fun to hear people chime in with little ideas about who it should be.
For me, it was more of it was always really interesting to me as well as a, player and developer. I always wanted to have relationships in our games, but this is kind of a different level of excitement that we got than I thought, because it was never the focus of a game. It was always kind of a perk, and then right now we definitely see some some interest in it being expanded. So we're looking into how we can do it.
And I think that's nice because we not all the time. There's plenty of games we like that are the same, but we do have semi-different tastes in playing games. So I think that's actually been kind of interesting in terms of like creating this game and, priorities. And I love having like character relationships are the most important thing to me when playing games most of the time, whether that be, a visual novel or whether that's like more of an RPG, like a Dragon Age type situation. That's my favorite part. So it's fun to kind of have a little bit of a community who's really, really enthusiastic about that as well. And maybe something more new for you, Arseniy.
I like that too. I think the romance particularly I didn't realize how big it is in the community.
Joe, can I just point out, totally different projects, so not really comparing them at all, but we recently interviewed another couple who is also making a vampire themed game, and visual novels and Dragon Age came up. And the wife and I really had that in common, while they both admittedly said, hey, we have really different tastes in games. So just got to call that out, that both happened in the same year. That's very exciting for us.
Bill and Amanda Gardner for Romancylvania. Have you two heard of that one?
Oh, wait. What is it again? Sorry?
Romancylvania.
No, I don't think so.
Is it? You said it's a visual novel, right?
It's more like a Metroidvania, but visual novels came up in the interview quite a bit.
Yeah, fascinating.
Yeah, she was really inspired. She's the narrative director, and she's like, "Oh, I love visual novels, and I love BioWare games," and we just kind of.
He's actually the main narrative designer, though, so it's interesting that those topics still came up in.
Honestly, narrative we kind of work on together.
Yeah, I guess the story work on. You're the writer. Yeah, I'm a good editor. I'm a good narrative editor, not necessarily. I don't want to sit down and do the writing myself initially, at least. I studied English literature. I'm like, that's just too much writing in my life. No more.
I love that.
That's how I felt about programming, and lo and behold, I am now doing programming.
Yeah. But that's interesting. You're talking to a couple because I imagine sharing your skill set and learning different skills at the same time is quite it's a challenge. It's a challenge, but it's exciting a lot of the time.
Yeah.
Most of the time it's a husband and wife.
Yeah, it has pros and cons, but pros outweigh the cons.
Because we're both originally producers anyways, in different industries. Yeah. I'm actually from the theater industry, so I worked in arts producing.
That's
for years before this.
I was working on games pretty much always. Like for the last 5 years before we started the company properly, worked at Sony, so got to work on a lot of good, big AAA hits and stuff, which was really cool.
And so you have two producers on the same team. You can imagine sometimes the take charge, we need to go on this schedule scenario. But we were also talking the other day about how much it does, in a way, make us be even more compassionate and empathetic towards, the artists we've worked with in the past, in terms of, as the producer, he's so concerned about, the timeline and the schedule and deliverables. And, we are both at the same time. So we try to keep each other accountable on different facets of the project. Yeah,
turned out it's really difficult to combine the, creativity with, production to be in the same role, in two different roles at the same time. Yeah. And I definitely think a lot about my, team at Sony that I used to work with, and thinking, I guess I see how they felt that way.
Sometimes annoyed with us, as we were sometimes annoyed with them. All love, but still, it's we get to step into both shoes at the same time and continue to gain a little bit more compassion and empathy in that regard.
It's been an interesting exercise.
Yeah.
What kind of differences are there between working on a big project with Sony and working on your own indie?
It is a good question. I'm kind of considering making a talk about it at some point. But essentially, I think personally, anybody who works, who makes an indie company, ideally should have some AAA experience, because if you're able, and again, I understand that people have different paths and stuff, but I found this experience to be very valuable, especially, as a producer, you tend to work with a whole bunch of different disciplines and, understand how the collaborative process works in terms of like what goes where, how's the pipeline situated, how does the budget work. And all of these skills, they are transferable, even though we work in a much smaller team. But, we still work, even with each other, there needs to be a process. And not even talking about all the amazing freelance help that we have, all the collaborators on the project. And this requires a lot of organization, a lot of understanding of how tools work, how, what are the priorities, how do you make decisions about what goes in the game, what doesn't, which order does it go in, all of this is very important, but at the same time, it's completely different when it's about a project that you designed, that you personally care about deeply. This is such an important game for us. This is such an important thing, like feat for us personally and it's also a huge blessing to be able to do that, to get funded, and stakes are just through the roof for us, emotionally. So that's kind of like, it's just a different world,
With your history at Sony, is there any chance that we could see this hit PlayStation or any other consoles?
No, you mean the Cabernet?
Yeah.
We'll see. We definitely want to include consoles in our release. We are aiming right now for, like, we've technically been approved for all consoles at this point, but it's not a very simple thing to do.
You think about kind of just, we'd obviously love for it to be everywhere, but unfortunately, with small teams, there's kind of the realities of the situation about what even, sadly, like what even just makes like financial sense in terms of in time. We only have so much time between us. So really prioritizing where the audience for the type of game you have is. I think that's also probably a really important thing. And even just listening to your audience. So like when we post things, people tell you what what consoles or where they want the game to be. And obviously,
whether it's going to be free.
Yeah, that's a whole nother thing. But yeah, it's a whole thing in terms of like what kind of makes sense for your game in particular. And our game is such a particular mix of genres, but it's not super action-y based. So right now it's PC. We're hoping it'll be on Switch near the same time as release, but you never know beyond that. We'd love for it to be everywhere, but time and resources.
Consider me a vote for Xbox. I would love to pick it up on Xbox.
Mm-hmm.
All right, yeah.
I mean,
I'll play devil's advocate and say a lot of your fan base is also on Switch. So if you're already going in that direction, like we want it on everything for sure, and the show wants it on Xbox for sure. But I see why that's kind of on your short list for that.
We'll
Engage, Virtual
time will
Boy.
tell. Who knows what's gonna happen down the line, who knows who's gonna be interested, and what kind of opportunities are we gonna get for that. Definitely will depend on the fan base and about people who want it to be free. That's obviously I mean, look, it's just a different model, right? It's like our game, just with nothing against that. It's just a different world.
It just wouldn't make sense for our game. You could think about the type of game you made.
We wouldn't want to break it up with ads, or having some, monetization system to it. So, all of this is.
I don't know how you would do that in our game, but
there are always ways if you want to. It's just
$1.99 to suck blood.
That's a good idea. Yeah.
No, it's not. I'm sorry, I didn't mention it.
Hold on a minute.
To pet an animal, $1.99.
We are
Pet the bunny is 99 cents. Eat the bunny is $3.99. You really got to think about what you want to do with that bunny.
Wow, that's a lot to think about.
Yeah.
After playing this build, I'm really excited to play the full game. So, like, I will say, I think if you had any kind of free demo for this, like, it would be strong for this game. I think there are a lot of hints of what's to come and what you're trying to do, and it just feels like a full game. And as far as like the genre mixing and you two working together, I think it's really working for you, because I think it's a really seamless narrative experience with also fun stuff like flying around and being a bat, which I've also seen in narrative games, and it doesn't always work. Sometimes it's clunky, and everything just feels really organic with lots of options, but it's not overwhelming either. Just really nice job even on this preview build.
That means a lot.
Really, really kind to hear. As we said, it's only been out into the some people's hands for like 3 weeks now, and just the response has been really lovely, because we had no idea what to expect. So thank you.
Like our friends, they didn't like. It's still a game for a specific audience, and our friends a lot of times are much more into action driven stuff, and it's not their bag. So we have very little target group of that
within our inner circle. So it's nice for some people who it's made for them more so to finally be able to see it. But the idea of having a public demo, we'll look into that. Just we're not quite at that stage yet. But thanks for saying it feels good and fluid, and we're just working even more to polish everything a bit more.
It's gonna get better.
Yeah.
Cool.
I see the Steam page mentions a 24 release date. Is it looking like early 24, later 24, still up in the air?
We're going to be vague. We'll just say mid, just to be on the safe side. With the two of us and we have so much voice acting that's going to be done too, which is really exciting. It's going to be fully voiced.
Yep.
Ooh.
So getting everybody, we have a lot of people on the books right now to record, but just making sure everybody's ready and polished. So I think that will determine a bit too at what part of the year.
If you need any voices, we have some friends of the show who are voice actors, and we'd be happy to send them your way.
Okay, well, that might be a thing that we've been planning. So we'll, keep an eye on our socials in the upcoming months. But I can't say more than that.
Yeah, what are your socials, since you brought them up?
We have some very exciting things coming up with that. We can't tell yet, but it's going to be fun.
So our socials, I feel like you should say what our socials are, because you're way better, and I'm terrible with social media. I can't remember them.
So we are, right now our, I guess, main social is TikTok at this point. So it's at Party for Introverts, I believe. The account is called Cabernet after our game. Then we have Twitter, in which we're pretty active, and the account is at Pintroverts, like Pinterest, but ending on introvert.
Introverts.
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 Love the name, by the way, Party for Introverts. And that's another selling point where I was just like, I want to try this game.
Yeah. Thank you. I feel like it does describe us a lot. And, lots of people we know, we thought it would resonate. So thank you. Thank you for saying that.
And then, we have Facebook with the same handle. And I don't know, do we have anything else?
No, those are the important ones.
I think that's
So I would say if you're interested in voice acting, I'm a voice actor. I will be voicing the main character. If only purely for funding purposes, I am cast as the main character because there's a lot of lines there.
Mathematically, if you have 1,000-page script, half of it is going to be the main character, and this is not something we can afford right now.
But if you're a voice actor interested, I'd say especially probably follow our Twitter. And maybe in the upcoming months, there'll be an interesting post for you.
Mm-hmm. So. Very cool. We will definitely keep our eyes open for it, and I'll be sure to let some of our friends know. We have a handful of friends who've done a lot of voice acting stuff, and I'm sure they'd love to be a part of it if they could. So
nice.
Yeah. No, thanks. Yeah, that's really, the voice acting part's really important to me, obviously being a voice actor myself and coming from the theater world. So it's pretty exciting that we're just going full out and full voicing it because it's an undertaking.
Yeah, it is.
Very talented people involved in this. We're very excited.
Yeah.
I assumed that you wouldn't be voicing it, so I'm impressed. That is quite the undertaking. I hope that goes.
Well, I know we've been chatting for quite a while. Is there anything you wanted to talk about that we didn't bring up?
No, I don't think in particular. Just we're really excited. Keep an eye out on things. We're really excited for next year, and just thank you everyone for your support already. It's been a really fun few weeks. Thanks for having us, and thank you for taking the time to play our little demo. It means a lot to us.
Thank you so much.
Oh, absolutely.
Really
Brooke,
cool.
Did you have any other questions you wanted to ask before we wrap this up?
I was curious, just one thing. Did you come up with the concept before the art design? The art direction of the game? Because I thought the art for it's so classy and pretty, but it's also just really mechanically smart for this type of game. I was wondering which came first.
That's a journey.
That's an excellent question. Because it was a kind of simultaneous decision. It was really, really intentional. So obviously, even just the art design kind of. If I'm not sure if this came across, but it's an old kind of like paper cutout animation style, but also a little bit like paper dolls. And so, and I really kind of thematically like the idea of it in terms of like, it's kind of like a bit of this dollhouse that you are playing the lives of these characters. But we didn't want it to be too cutesy. So it's a balance between kind of being like that cute paper doll aesthetic, but also being juxtaposed kind of with the content. That was pretty intentional. So
I really love that about it. It's so pretty, and it's also just such a great choice for the Victorian style. And like, frankly, as a girl gamer, the dresses were beautiful. Not all the silhouettes for all the sprites are the same when you're socializing with the other aristocrats. Like, I geeked out over that. So really
and it's a really fun era to work with because it's set in the late 1800s, so late 19th century, and essentially because of that, like more Western style garb was kind of coming to Eastern Europe, like more Western European came to Eastern European, especially in the cities and the upper class. So I appreciate that you like the dresses. There'll actually be, in addition to kind of more Western looking garb, there'll be a little bit more traditional Eastern looking garb as well in the game, which just hasn't been, fully shown yet. But it was fun to play with kind of a mix of that and, really research clothing of the time. So it's quite a journey. So thank you for appreciating that.
Cool. Well, it looks great. And I saw those inventory slots hinting at more dresses later. So I'm really looking forward to that. Too.
I love it. You love that because it's something I love. He likes it too, honestly. He was really into it. That's something we enjoy as well.
Yeah, I also wanted it to be not just a static choice, but actually have an impact on gameplay. Yeah. So we're gonna have a little bit of that, which is
Oh yeah, doesn't the first outfit you get increase is it like the history stat or something?
Yeah, nice for noticing that. Yeah. So all the dresses will have a little meaning behind them, kind of thematically fit into what you're trying to, hopefully maybe what you want to try to accomplish in the moment you're playing.
Yeah, some are going to be more appropriate at different times.
Yeah.
And,
Very cool.
Are there going to be any completely inappropriate, ridiculous costumes?
Ooh. I mean, I think those can be really fun. However, I think at this point we're probably not going to do that just because although our game is set in a fictional, country, it's not real where it's set. Trying to have, it's still kind of inspired by general Eastern Europe. So I think we want to be respectful at this point as much as we can about what makes
reality.
Sense. Yeah, it's again totally fictional, so we could absolutely go that direction, and maybe that'll be a fun add-on after. But I think for now we're trying to combine things and be inspired and keep it a little bit more historically respectful at this point. But I understand where you're coming from.
You could do the Indie Friends DLC bundle afterwards with Shovel Knight and Shantae.
We're definitely looking into DLC options going forward. We have some ideas. Yeah, we can definitely think about that.
We said we love it. We love ideas coming our way. So yeah.
On top of the $1.99 for feeding and stuff. That's it gave us a lot of food for thought.
I didn't think about that. I love it.
Oh, man. Well, I guess we will wrap this up. Thank you so much for coming on and joining us and talking about the game with us. One last time, tell us where can people find out more about the game, and it's on Steam, correct?
It is on Steam. Steam is currently the most important platform for us to get wishlists on, so please do that if you're interested. Called Cabernet. It's easy to find.
Yeah, wishlist all indie developers games that you appreciate. I'm shouting out to all of them because it really helps with visibility later down the line. So definitely wishlist our game on Steam, Cabernet. And then you can find us on TikTok, Party for Introverts, Cabernet. Yep. And then Pintroverts on Twitter, or P-Introverts on Twitter.
Very cool. Thank you so much for joining us. Everybody else, we are going to take a quick break. We will be back with some PartyCast goodness. Brooke, you're going to be heading out for your journeys. Where, cross country?
I'm going to climb to the top of a mountain and find my purpose in life. So I'm going to knock that out really quick. But then I'll be back in the following week.
So yes, we will take a quick break. We will be back with more show. Does anyone have any final words to end the interview?
Just thank you all for listening. Thank you for having us. It's been a real treat. Thanks all.
Thank you. Thank you. Wonderful.
Are we ready to start?
Yeah.
Maybe.
That a yes?
Yeah, we were waiting on you.
Well,
yeah.
He said maybe.
Pernell was shifty. Yeah.
I wasn't sold on his readiness.
He didn't give a strong affirmation.
Yeah.
I never do. I'm just that guy,
Damn,
Apple
Pernell.
man.
What's up, everybody? We are back. Thank you so much for hanging out with us and sticking around with the music and all that other fun stuff. Big thanks again to Laura and Arseniy.
Arsenio Hall.
Yeah, I'm glad you did it because I was thinking it. I was thinking it.
It's Arseniy. It's a weird name. I'm sorry. It's the party for introverts.
Oh.
Well, I could do that shit too.
You needed audio support. This is pure vocal cords, baby.
Big thanks to them for coming on, chatting about Cabernet with me and Brooke. Brooke had to leave, but I got the rest of the PartyCast crew here with me. Tim's here, Pernell's here, Chris is here. How's everyone doing?
Yeah, I'm doing okay, I suppose. It's pretty well.
We're under air quality warning here in Buffalo because of wildfires up in Quebec.
We're under air quality warnings here.
Yeah.
And I know how far I am from you.
Yeah, I mean we're both pretty far from Quebec. That's like it.
Wait, real quick. Is that where the warnings are coming from? I have a friend who lives in Percy, which is not too far from Joe, and he's been talking about like wildfire smoke. Is this all coming from Quebec?
Yeah.
Yep.
What the hell? It's like just like heat wildfires?
Yeah, maybe. I mean, it was super hot last week. Unseasonably, I think we hit some new record highs. There's nothing wrong with the planet.
Nothing at all.
Yeah, and it was really weird. Like today, it's weird. It's like hazy outside. It was really weird yesterday because it was like when I was outside that someone like the dome light in my car was on.
Fall into the abyss.
It felt like this kind of
my
like little bit of a glow on everything. It was strange. Yeah, not used to this. This is not a place where wildfires are usually popping off. But there's, like I said, there's nothing wrong with the planet.
It's the same here. You went outside and it's the same kind of air quality as if there was like a town bonfire celebrating the football team's big win at state or something. It's just hazy and smoky. It feels weird, like
delicious
and
barbecue.
It's not our smoke.
Some outdoor activities are being canceled because it's just the air quality is not good right now.
Some Canadian smoke.
I took 3.5 years of environmental science back in the 90s. So for me, it's almost just like we were talking about this back when people thought it was a joke, and now people still think it's a joke because they're fucking dumb.
Yep.
Shout out to Dopey for dropping in with a whole bunch of raiders. Hope everyone out there is safe. Root Beer is saying there's a fire 20 minutes away from their house. So that is scary as shit. Stay safe.
Hopefully it's not 20 miles away from his house, connected by a steady stream of things that could catch fire.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had a friend of mine accidentally text the wrong group chat on Sunday, and he was like, "Yeah, if you're coming over, come around this way because like my neighbor's house is on fire." I'm just like, what what is going on? I think it was actually his car was like smoldering or something like that. It was a vehicular related.
At that point, don't you move the get together? Like, can we do it in your backyard instead? My backyard's on fire.
What do I know? Not much about having people over to my house, that's for sure. It's been a long time. A long time.
I feel like people who are having get-togethers right now are being irresponsible anyway, so why not throw fire into the mix?
What do you mean?
There's a disease in the air, so it's like having get-togethers is already like it's not as responsible as it was in 2019.
Yeah,
but I'm actually surprised. This is something I genuinely didn't know about. What's going on there with that?
What?
This is a guy who doesn't. No, I think you're talking about something that wasn't COVID.
No, it's still COVID.
No, it's still COVID.
Oh, it's still COVID.
It's still COVID. It's still there.
It's just nobody cares anymore.
Yeah.
I honestly think we're at the point where COVID is weakened enough that it's just going to be here forever. And it's going to be here forever.
It's going to be here forever.
But it is going to be here forever.
It'll be like,
I'm with Tim on that. It's basically the only thing that makes it weaker is if you got your shots or if you've already been sick and your body built up natural immunities and you didn't die from it the first time. Otherwise, no, I think
it's going to be worse.
It mutates like a motherfucker.
Mm-hmm.
as viruses do.
Yeah.
All I say is my usual stance on it is we had a very small window. Humans knew we weren't going to make that window, but you do the best you can. And at this point, you just got to deal with it the best you can because it ain't going away.
I guess I'm a stupid ass because I'm having a cookout next weekend.
I didn't say stupid. I just said
I'm stupid. I am.
It's
also
comparatively
self-admitted.
Comparatively to like 2019, where you just didn't have to care.
No. But
now you gotta think about it.
I haven't seen Maze Dude in years on end. He is interested in coming down, so I want to see my Maze Dude.
Quite a while.
Tim, if you're bored, come on down.
Yeah, no, that's not happening, Joseph.
How far do you live from him?
Probably like 3-4 hours. 4 hours probably is what I'm guessing.
4.5 or something.
Yeah. I have to go quite a ways east and then down.
Which is, by the way, not to say that I am any better than anybody, because I'm going to be playing at a con next month.
Yeah.
I think you're better than us.
What con?
Buddy.
Huh?
What con?
What convention?
It's called Classic Game Fest. It's in Texas.
So there's no COVID
that doesn't say much for us.
No.
I was going to ask that, but then I realized where it probably was, and I was just like, I'm not going to finish that thought. No.
Nah, I don't even know. I doubt it. I'll be wearing a mask all the time like I usually do.
Yeah, sure.
The thing is, like, I think that's one thing I'm missing on this whole dialogue, though. Like, from my understanding, like, many, not all, but many to most conventions have pretty much dropped mask requirements, but the whole logic of, well, bring your vaccination card.
You know,
and
I saw Summer Games Done Quick. They were still, like, everyone was masked that I saw when I was able to poke into the stream.
Hey, if MagFest is mask mandatory again next year, more than happy to do it.
Yeah, it was no big deal.
Yeah, I never understood why people were like, oh my God, you're infringing. Like, I don't give a shit.
The whole time anyway.
Yeah, after this year. After what you did to us.
I'm such an asshole.
Well, that's what you had. There was a COVID outbreak in your area, wasn't there? Or in your party or something?
Is that what it is?
Yeah, Joe was patient zero at MagFest.
Well, I don't know if I was patient zero because I went to someone else's room who did have it.
Oh.
And we didn't know until after I was already feeling sick. And for some reason, no one ever put 2 and 2 together, including me. It was like living in the moment. You didn't think about it. It was weird.
Oh, now I remember, because when you told me, I was like, don't feel bad about it. I mean, let's be honest. We're at fucking MagFest.
Everyone literally thought it was food poisoning.
Yeah, but that's just it, though. It was MagFest. One of the largest, I want to say it is actually one of the largest, general, entertainment gatherings in the United States these days. And to not expect the odds of you getting sick there, regardless of whether you're vaccinated or not. No, I kind of went there expecting the possibility. So when you were like, oh, man, I'm the guy, I'm like, what are you going to do? We did our best. I got jabbed up to death over here. And I still wear my mask in certain places. It just is. I'm not going to blame you for it. If one from you, it's going to be somebody else.
Pretty much everywhere. I don't leave the house most of the time. I stay at home as much as humanly possible.
Me too.
I should consider doing that because my ass. I've just been so focused on exercise. I'm like, I'm in a facility pumping some weights or some shit 6 days a week at this point. So if I get sick, I'm just going to get sick.
Between COVID and my anxiety and the increase in shootings, I'm just scared to do anything anymore.
Wait, in your area?
I have idiots in my area.
Hey, if there hasn't been shootings in his area, that means he's ripe for to be next on the list, right?
I'm a statistic waiting to happen.
We had a horrible shooting last year. Buffalo should be good for a while, right? I mean, that's how it works.
You think?
What about the grocery store?
Yeah.
You would think, but apparently, it's just going to keep happening.
Yeah, they are.
Wow, we need to bring up the mood in here. Holy shit,
we do.
So you hear about that enema I got?
You know what else is a big hit?
Oh my god,
Street Fighter.
Gosh, this is what happens when Brooke isn't here to bring up the conversation.
Yeah, I hope she realized that we genuinely do appreciate her.
And I can play sound effects again if you want.
Listen here,
It's not the same. It's not the same. It's not the same, Joe. We appreciate the thought, though, but it ain't the same.
Say no to Norg. Next week will be better. Stemage will be here, and Brooke will be back.
Oh.
So next week will be fun.
All right.
Yeah,
this week is going to suck.
I love how just like the cast oscillates between like 3 of us to like 6 of us. Like no in between anymore.
Got a lot, got a little.
Well, but yeah, should we get to reviews? There are a handful that we got to get to tonight. Big stuff, too.
Yeah.
We could do that.
All right, well, first game on the docket tonight is Street Fighter 6, developed and published by Capcom, released June 2nd on Xbox Series X and S, PS4, PS5, and Steam for $59.99. Here comes Capcom's newest challenger. Street Fighter 6 launches worldwide and represents the next evolution of the Street Fighter series. Street Fighter 6 spans 3 distinct game modes, including World Tour, Fighting Ground, and Battle Hub. Tim, what are all 3 of these modes, and how are they as one cohesive unit as Street Fighter 6?
Oh, geez. Yeah, so it turns out there's been 5 other Street Fighter games. The series has been going on for a while.
You lie.
Only 5 games. There have never been any offshoots or anything.
Never, no branding on anything else whatsoever. Yeah, I am an old man. An old Street Fighter man, since I've got hooked on Street Fighter 2 in the arcades in the early 90s, and was constantly begging quarters to go and lose them very quickly in Street Fighter, and lamenting I was lamenting because the arcade at the mini golf place nearest to my house jumped to 50 cents for charging for a game, and oh man, I would blow through like money so fast. Ouch. Anyways, yeah. Me and Street Fighter go way back. I am not what you would call great at Street Fighter. I feel like I can hold my own amongst other people who are not great at Street Fighter. It's been, I guess the series has been kind of a weird place for the last few years. Street Fighter 5, which was a PlayStation exclusive, which means Joe was a big fan of it. Like Sony threw money at Capcom and told them, you need to get this game out by this date. And Capcom published a game by that point, but forgot to include a lot of the game. Street Fighter 5 was just rocky right off the rip.
Funny thing is, I do own it on PlayStation.
Well, yeah. Where else? You only have place to own it on PC. It never came out on Xbox. So of course, if you have Street Fighter 5, you got to have it on the PlayStation. But it's like, the game released like, you could play online matches. It had like it didn't have a basic like arcade mode. It had like a trimmed down like individual stories for each character, and they were like, well, the full story mode is coming later on. All this other like there was stuff on the menu that just wasn't there yet. And from my experience, like I enjoyed the fighting of Street Fighter 5, which I think a lot of people did. But just like the game was clunky with its menus and its loading, and felt awkward out the gate because it was missing so much content that should have been there, and they were transitioning to sort of a what do I want to say? Sort of like a games as service type deal where they're releasing the characters, stunted. You can earn currency in the game to buy those characters. I believe in Street Fighter 6, they've just straight up gone back to like just buy the season pass. We're not doing all that currency bullcrap. Anyways, Street Fighter 5 kind of got to where it needed to be by the end. And I think was just always just regarded as a strong fighting game, but kind of the rest of the fighting game world has been catching up very quickly. Like there has been so many good fighting games in recent years. Mortal Kombat is as popular as ever. Tekken's very popular. Great Guilty Gears. You get stuff like Dragon Ball Fighters. And
Blaze
Street
Blue.
Fighter, yeah, Blaze Blue, not quite as much Blaze Blue recently, but just lots of fighting games out there as netcode improves, and there's just more accessible. The community grows up, and Street Fighter it felt like has kind of been losing some of its spotlight. a little bit, which is kind of how shaky Street Fighter V was, and what that game was missing, and how other games have come on pretty strong. And so it feels like with Street Fighter 6, to finally start talking about the game that I'm here to review, that Capcom kind of went all out and were like, we have to nail this right out of the gate. We cannot screw anything up. We cannot cut any corners. We have to have like awesome fighting game from day one. So you fire up Street Fighter 6 and your first order of business is to create a character. And man, they let you go kind of wild with this character creator. And you've probably seen some of these horrifying monstrosities online, because they let you stretch the character big, make your biceps small, make your forearms huge, make them tall, make them small, make them fat. Just these very strange looking characters. You can also make normal looking characters if that's your thing. Just seems weird. But yeah, you're going to make your character, and this character is going to be hanging around. You can change it up later. But the first thing, and most of what you do with this character, is going to take place in the World Tour mode. The first of the 3 modes that I'll talk about. So this is the big single player mode of Street Fighter 6. They did not half-ass it and just be like, okay, well, here's an arcade mode, and here's a survival mode, and here's a few other things, and a terrible story mode. It's like, no, this is a big, silly, ridiculous single player fighting game mode that is actually kind of like a light version of Yakuza. So you get your guy and you're training under Luke, who's like the new character. He's on the box. That's Luke. He was the last character for Street Fighter V, I believe.
I'm gonna slap him in the face every time I see him.
Yeah, he just has that face. You're like one of his trainees, and he works you through the basics of how the thing's going to work. But eventually you get out into this open world of Metro City, and you're running around. You can challenge people to fights on the street. You have objectives, side quests. You buy food. You buy clothes. Thugs will jump you on the street, sometimes more than one at a time, and you'll have little fights there right on the spot. A lot of the story basically guides you through like meeting the different masters of the world, which is all the, known Street Fighter characters. So like first off the bat, you go and you meet Chun-Li and you do some stuff with Chun-Li. And as you meet these masters, you can then take on their styles, which will confer their like basic movesets onto your character. And you can also, you'll learn their special moves. And the cool thing about the special moves, well, there's 2 cool things. Is that you can mix and match them on your character. So you can use Chun-Li moves with E-Honda moves, with Luke moves. You can customize your special move set. You can pick your style. You can pick the style of one character. You could pick the special moves of like 5-6 other characters, so long as you've found them and done their quests and such. And you will also
sounds innovative.
Yeah, it's fun because it's not concerning itself in the World Tour mode. It is not concerning itself with giving you a super tight fighting game experience. It is concerned with making sure you have a fun, ridiculous time with kind of the mechanics that the game has lying around, but it lets you put those pieces together in a way that suits you. And you will use those moves to like traverse the world. Like if there's a gap between buildings, you can use Chun-Li's spinning bird kick or E-Honda's like sumo headbutt to traverse that gap from one side to the other. That's so beautiful. It's not just, you use them out of combat to traverse the world. And it is it is robust. It is very goofy. And it's a lot of fun. But I honestly haven't spent that much time playing that mode because I just keep playing the rest of the game. So the main thrust of Street Fighter 6, I mean, it depends. I mean, some people might just want to play the World Tour mode and get out of it. Yeah, I've heard that it's upwards of like 15, 20 hours. So there's like a robust game just in there if you just want to go there and do the thing.
You just want to go there and fight random people on the street. Like, that's my favorite part is it's not just like people standing there ready to fight. They're just going about their day, and you're like, hey, you want to fight? Sure.
Yeah.
Quick question.
What's up?
What the fuck?
Since you didn't ask it, Joe, I'm going to ask it. You said you can put moves from different characters as special moves from various people. Can you do that for the normal move set as well? Or is it just you can only choose one person's moves?
You can just pick one style for the normal move set.
Oh, that
when the hell did you join?
There was a noise.
Just now. Didn't hear it.
Yeah, I heard.
I came in specifically to ask that question.
No, I because I'm streaming, it disables all Discord sounds. So I don't know when someone joins.
I always wondered why you couldn't tell when I joined and when I didn't. Okay.
Yeah, now we know. So yeah, for that you can only pick one style that kind of covers all of your normals, as it were.
That's sad.
They give you a lot of customization options in there.
Yeah, but I want to mix Juri, Han, Cammy, and Chun-Li's fighting styles together and just make it very leggy.
You find a way to do that in every game.
All right, let's get into the meat of this game. So there are 18 characters. 12 of them are returning. 6 of them are brand new. The original 8 Street Fighter 2 characters are all here, so no one will be wandering around going, "Where's X character?" No, that core 8, they're all here. Plus Cammy, plus DJ's back, plus Juri for the foot fetish freaks, and Luke, the aforementioned Luke returning from Street Fighter 5.
And now the Juri is definitely just for the foot fetish freaks because they really fucked up her face. I don't know what they did, but they messed it up so bad.
Why?
Joining is there's the old guy JP, who's weird. Jamie, who's like a drunken breakdance boxer. Kimberly, who's kind of her teacher is Guy, Final Fight Guy, so she kind of takes off from him. There's Lily, who is T-Hawk's daughter, so she kind of takes after him, though she has her own mechanics. Like, she can build up these wind stocks that enhance her special moves, and she's also like way smaller and faster than T-Hawk ever was. He's not some big, huge lumbering dude. She is very quick. Manon, who is a supermodel ballet judoka.
Interesting.
Also, the feet are out. I'm sure that's going to be a problem for some people. And Marissa, who's the big muscle mommy and can like hold me down and punch her fist through my skull anytime she wants. She's fun. She just hits the shit out of people. I guess this is a good opportunity to just say that like everything in this game looks awesome and is just like full of personality and style. Like, the characters are so well realized and animated with their expressions and how they move and how they carry themselves. They have a thing where, like, when you face off before a fight and the two characters' heads are up on the screen, you can push the stick around to have them make faces at each other. And then the intro to the fight is like them like walking through a club while like people are, cheering and hyping them up, and they're kind of strutting and taunting each other. And just that looks cool. The stages are all nice and varied. But just like the way, there's so much more animation in this game, like to the characters' expressions, just like in the fights, the way they will like block attacks. They don't just have a like singular like block stance, like I am blocking, but like their arms and legs and body will kind of move and react to the hits that are coming in, which was actually kind of jarring at first. And I had to get used to, I'm just like, why are they're like wiggling around so much while they're getting hit? And it's like, no, they're just reacting more naturally to attacks that are coming in. And it just looks great. And even, down to the character select screen with the way the characters appear on there, it just all looks so good, with the way those characters are, brought to life on the screen, which is, a big important part of a fighting game. That is something that attracted me and a lot of people to Street Fighter 2. You just saw these big, colorful characters on the screen that looked so different from one another, and it just drew you in. So as far as the actual fighting goes, Characters have, their normals, their like command normals. They have grabs. They have their super moves. You have your super meter, which now in this game, it just dictates like your super combos, which is nice. Like that is the only thing that meter is for, is activating your like level 1, 2, 3 super combos. That's it. What they've added is this drive gauge that hangs out right under your life bar, and it starts full every single round. And this bar is what you use to activate like EX moves, which is the enhanced version of any special move where you hit 2 buttons for it. It activates a parry mechanic. It activates what's called drive rush, which is where you parry and then you double tap to dash in, and you'll move in quickly and you can combo like anything off of that. And drive impact, which you hold down, and if you hit with it, even if they block it, actually, it kind of knocks them back. But if you hit with it, you stagger them. So you basically just completely open them up to attack. And actually, if you counter a drive impact with a drive impact, then you can beat the drive impact with your drive impact and really crumple them. You will get drive back in the round just from being like aggressive. You will lose. That gauge will go down if you're just like playing too passively, if you're blocking too much, or if you're just spamming moves too much. And if you empty the drive, your character goes into an exhaustion state where they're more vulnerable. They like hits against them have more advantage on block. They can take chip damage, and obviously you can't use all of these resources, these abilities that will help you win fights. And I think that's cool that it is separate from your super meter. And I kind of forget that sometimes because I'm using all these abilities and I think I have no meter, but I have like 3 bars and I'm like, shit, I should probably be popping off with some stuff. I mean, it's, those systems are universal across characters. They still take some getting used to it. The nice thing about the parry is you don't really have to time it. You can actually just hold down the buttons and it will slowly drain the bar. And it will block anything. I mean, you're not just going to stand there and do that forever because then somebody's just going to throw you. But it's easy to use, and I like that. Drive rush is definitely like a little bit tricky, and it's something that I'm still getting used to. As far as, so we're in the grounds, battlegrounds, not the battle hub, training grounds, something. I'm fighting grounds. There we go. That's the selection on the right. So in here you have your arcade mode, which you can select a 5-stage arcade mode, which will be 4 fights and beating up a tractor trailer truck, or a like 12-round arcade mode, which is so you, and each one, it has a story vignette at the beginning and the end of it, whether you choose to do 5 or 12. So that's cool.
Are they the same or different?
Oh, they're different. It's by each character.
I mean, is it the same at 5 and 12, or do they have like? Does Cammy have a different one at 5 than 12?
No, it's the same one. It's just if you want to have a longer experience like the original arcade.
I didn't know if they had separate endings after taking out more characters. Like I have more blood on my hand.
I need to find out. There is a special rules mode, which I haven't actually played around yet, but it lets you apply a bunch of like weird stipulations to matches. Like there's one where you can pick like a rule and then like an effect for the level. This is just like spice things up. This is kind of like a little more of like a party fuck around mode, I think. They have one where there's like 1 life bar at the top, and your object is you're trying to push your like color all the way to the other side, and there's like a push and pull to it, so rounds can go on for a very long time. And like some of the effects are like a bull will run through the level. There's ones where you have to like execute specific moves first for like a bonus. It's just like just a fun little thing that I wouldn't have expected them to throw in there. There's local versus local team battle. And then you have like your training section where you have your training mode, you have your tutorials, which will teach you about the game's systems. There's character guides for individual characters that will walk you through like their individual move sets. And then there's combo challenges for each character. training mode is very extensive. There are so many menus in this mode and so many things you can set up and mess around with, from programming the AI to just setting up different conditions in there. But I'll just kind of overview a few things here. The most important thing is you can just turn on the frame data for the moves. And what this tells you, and it has a key, so it explains all this to you. It'll show you when you throw like a move, it will show you like how many frames of startup this is like, out of 60, right? Because it's a 60 frame per second game. It's like how long does it take this move to start up? When is it active? This is when it's doing damage. And then like, what's the recovery on it before you can do another move? Like, does this move give you advantage? Does this move give you projectile invincibility? Does it give you invincibility? Does it have armor in it? And that is just, that information is kind of over my head at this particular junction, but just having that in there, that you can just flip a switch and there it is. And it is immensely helpful for developing combos and figuring out how you want to play a character. They have a series of like training exercises, like just auto programmed. Like there's one for practicing anti-air, where it will have the AI like alternately like jump at you or just do a neutral jump straight up, so you can kind of practice recognizing what it looks like. And of course you can change what character you're up against. So it's like, I'm having a lot of trouble recognizing when Blanca is jumping at me for whatever reason. So you can just put Blanca there and then go through it. They have throw counter training in there. There's like countering the drive impact. So, just training yourself to react to when somebody else uses it and doing your counter drive impact on it. Bunch of stuff in there. Combo training, which programs the AI to block as soon as you drop a combo string, so you know whether it's working or not. Just tons and tons of stuff. It's fantastic. And
that's 2 of the 3 modes.
And then there's, also they have in there, they have online play is also listed under here for like your ranked matches or your casual matches, or creating like a custom room. You can just set up like while you're in training mode or playing arcade mode or whatever to have it queuing you in the background. So when it just finds a match, it throws you in there. Which, I mean, there's no way you're getting anywhere in any mode at this point in the game, because you are just queuing for matches like constantly, which is good, of course. You have to set up your, you pick your character in advance. You can customize, you customize what color they're going to have. You can customize your control scheme. That's something I got to touch on here in a second. But you can also customize what your like here comes a new challenger screen looks like to the other player, which is really cool. They give you a few different backgrounds and like graphics to use for that. That's just like another nice little touch to kind of spice up the personality of the game. I mentioned the control modes, and I should have mentioned this earlier. There's 3 different control methods of this game. There's classic, which is what you come to expect from Street Fighter. It's 6 buttons. It's how you probably want to play Street Fighter. They've added in this modern control scheme, which gives you a light, medium, and heavy. So 3 attack buttons plus a special button where you activate your character's special moves, kind of like you would in Smash Brothers, by pushing the stick in a direction with the button. That is meant to make things a little easier for new players coming in, so they don't have to worry about as many buttons. That control scheme drives me absolutely insane. It's just not how I've played Street Fighter my entire life. It might help people ease into it, but obviously you don't have access to all the moves when you're crunching them down onto 6 buttons down onto 3 buttons. But it I don't know, it's going to help somebody.
To jump in, it's helping me, because I'm not someone who's really good with fighting games. I routinely get my ass handed to me just because, like, remember what the code was on Super Nintendo to put in for Champion Edition on Street Fighter 2?
I don't.
Do you remember there being a code at least?
There was a code for mirror matches in Street Fighter 2. Yeah.
Yeah, you would pop that in. Like, my friends could pull that off every single time. I could never in my life get that goddamn code. So doing combos and shit is very hard for me.
Mm-hmm.
So with this, having this more modern, easier to approach fighting layout and fighting control scheme, it's made it a lot more approachable for me, and I'm having a lot of fun with it.
Oh, cool. And there's also what's called the dynamic control scheme, which I haven't messed around with, but is just like the button masher control scheme. And sure enough, that is what my child uses, and it makes it a fair fight. He just goes buck nuts, and stuff is popping off for him. You cannot use that control scheme online. You can only use modern or classic.
That's fair.
Yeah, that's fine. And then, yeah, you have the... so when you queue for like a ranked match, you can do like you play basically like a best 2 out of 3. You'll do one and then you can choose to rematch. Everybody I've played against always rematches, whether they win or lose. But after 3 matches, then you go or somebody wins 2. It's like, go on, play somebody else. One of the neat things is that you can invite the person to a private room or a custom room and just keep playing against them if you so choose. But you can also, like, there's an option to like go to training mode against this character. So it's like, if there's something about this character that's pissing you off, you can go straight into training mode against that character and like start setting up the thing it is that you need to figure out how to deal with. That's a cool little shortcut. Or you can just go back to the mode you were in if you're quick queuing. So then there's the battle hub. And so that's in the center. So the Battle Hub, you take your Freak of Nature avatar, remember that guy from the top of the review, and you go into this arcade with a bunch of other people's Freak of Nature avatars, and there will be a bunch of arcade setups around. So this kind of mirrors, this kind of mirrors what Axis has been doing with their online lobbies, and that, like, you get a visual representation kind of people in an arcade, and you'll be able to walk up to a station if there's only one person playing, and you'll be able to challenge them to a match. You could just go back and forth with that person as many times as you want. These are just casual matches in here. Or you can queue up. You can basically like put your quarter on the marquee to cut into a match. You can take your Freak Show avatar to the center and fight against other people's Freak Show avatars. Which
you could
sometimes
spectate. You could just sit and watch, which I've done.
Yeah, you can sit and watch. Sometimes I go into a lobby and like no one's playing fucking Street Fighter. They're all in the middle doing avatar battles. Even in here, off to the back, you can go and play classic Capcom arcade games.
Yeah, buddy.
Which has a rotating lineup. Like, when I've gone in there, I've only checked it twice. I didn't discover it until the other day. Is like, it's had original Street Fighter 2. It's had Final Fight. It's had Sidearms. It had something else today. I forget what it was. But yeah, you could just go and sit down and like play Final Fight, like on free play in Street Fighter 6. If you want to, or just if you just want to take a break and go check out some old arcade game, you can go do that. But like the important thing is that like playing online is like seamless. I have not seen like a lick of lag, and I've sometimes been playing on like European servers, and there's an ocean in between. They have got the netcode down pat for this game, and it loads up matches quickly. They play like pretty much feels like you're playing against somebody in the room. And if it didn't have that, everything that I just said for the past like 20 minutes would be useless. But it has that, and that means it's going to be, and people are like playing the shit out of this game. It's already hit like the top numbers on Steam for a non-free to play fighting game. So basically exempting multiverses. That disaster.
Do we have to talk about that game?
No, we don't.
Okay,
there's
good.
tons of people playing Street Fighter, and there's going to be tons of people playing Street Fighter. I guess it's worth noting, like, when you're playing ranked matches, it ranks you by character. So, you're not going to lose rank by jumping in with a character that you're inexperienced with. Like, you're going to do placement matches, and it's going to put you where you belong with that character that you suck with. So it encourages you to experiment and try out other stuff. which is cool. There's just so much to play around with in this game. I have barely touched like 75% of the cast. It feels like to really start like
to show how populated the game is. They've already celebrated 1 million players on the game since launch.
Yeah, it's huge. It's hitting really well, and it deserves to. Like, you know, friend of the show, A Rival, who's a huge fighting game guy, huge Street Fighter guy. He's just been leaving the game on so he doesn't have to wait for it to boot up when he wants to play a match. Like he said, like this is the best Street Fighter game ever made. And I don't really have an argument against that. It may be like one of the best, most complete fighting game packages ever made. You know, it's ticking every single box I could possibly think of. And there's stiff competition for fighting games this year, like Tekken 8 or 9. The new Tekken's coming out. The hilariously named Mortal Kombat 1 is coming out this year. But they, you know, Capcom came out swinging to kind of defend their crown. And they knew they had to nail it. And I feel like they did, like top to bottom. They have extensive single player to play. They have options for trying to help you train to get better at the game. You know, there's more resources than ever to try to help you get decent at a fighting game. It's a huge skill curve, but the ceiling is infinite.
And there's retro games.
Yeah, there's retro games on here. You could just play the game single player, enjoy the world tour, play through arcade mode with all the characters, like fire it up when you have friends over, and you'd be totally happy with this game, I feel like. Or you could just ignore all that stuff. You could just go online and play against other people, and you would be totally happy with that, never playing it single player at all, other than like in the training room. Like everything is here that like someone who is at all interested in a fighting game would possibly need. And it looks awesome and plays awesome, and it's great.
Well, it's $60. I need a verdict.
I mean, you know, it's worth it. No, this is an absolute buy. It's not even $70. They didn't even put the $70 tag on there. This game is well worth it.
I mean, you can spend more if you want. They do have a deluxe edition for $84.99 and an ultimate edition for $104.99. Those come with.
Don't buy the ultimate edition. No. Well, the deluxe edition includes like the season pass for the next year, which is 4 characters, which is Akuma and Ed and Rashid and somebody else. And like the only thing that the ultimate edition includes over the deluxe for like an extra $20 is like some additional character colors and I think a couple stages, which is, I mean, if you're a freak show and you want to, like, by all means, but it just, I don't know, seems a lot less necessary. But what do I know? Capcom was nice enough to basically give us the deluxe edition, so thank you. But I've seen, like, you can buy PC keys legitimately for like $50 to save yourself a little money if you don't care as much about the cosmetics, and you might just buy, or you want to buy characters like a la carte, or you just want to get the season pass. That's probably a way to go. But yeah, deluxe edition seems fair, kind of covers you for the next year. Ultimate edition seems excessive unless you're really into it.
Either way, play this game.
Either way, yeah. I mean, like, if you are at all interested in a fighting game, like, this is the one. This is the one.
Find Tim and challenge him.
Yeah, bring it. Bring it. Unless you're currently ranked higher than like bronze 4, then I don't want anything to do with you. I played some gold players during my placements, and it was not good for me. I could tell.
Not good for your mental health.
It was fine. I mean, you win some, you lose some. I'm making progress.
I know my limits.
I was in bronze 3 earlier today, and I leveled up to bronze 4 just before we got on here.
Nice.
Might have been late to the show if I took a couple more matches, but I made it. So I'm making progress. Well, and that is just with Zangief. That's who I've been playing online, is Zangief.
Beautiful.
Yeah, I had all these thoughts in my head as to like which character I was going to try out first and which character I was going to play first. And then like I went to actually do it. I'm like, no, I'm going to Zangief. I played a bunch of Zangief in Street Fighter 4. I don't think I really played it much in 5, but I'm having a good time slamming.
Am I going to have to use the picture of me dressed up as Zangief?
Seems
for this
likely.
episode.
Yeah. They've given him so many more throws. Just variations on like his basic throw. He can do DDTs and spine busters and stuff now. It's cool. It's great.
Damn, that's
it's a great
awesome.
game. It's fantastic. It's like something that has been drawing me away from Tears of the Kingdom. So that says something.
All right. Well, that is it for you, Tim.
Yeah. Time to go nappy bye.
Night, Tim.
Yeah.
You have any final words?
Tears of the Kingdom is still real good though. Like it's 60 hours in that game and still having a wonderful time. Yeah.
We're actually going to have someone coming on to chat about Tears of the Kingdom with us. Ro Panuganti, he just put out a Tears of the Kingdom metal album.
He put out a Breath of the Wild album.
I thought the new one was Tears of the Kingdom.
Did he put out another one? Okay. All right.
So he's going to come on to chat about that. You should join us.
Well, it depends on when you're doing it.
Next Thursday night.
Maybe.
There you go.
I'm like sitting here thinking, yeah, maybe.
Stay tuned.
Yeah, let me know
everyone.
what it is. Yeah, but we don't need to talk about this. Yeah, no, I don't want to talk to that guy. All right.
All right, moving on. Next game, Raiden 3 Cross MIKADO MANIAX, developed by Moss, published by NIS America. Released June 6th on Xbox One, Series X and S, Switch, PS4, PS5, and PC for $39.99. Source Sky High in Raiden 3 Cross MIKADO MANIAX, electrifying entry in the classic arcade shoot-'em-up series. Customize your music, wallpapers, game mode, and more before launching into high-octane aerial action. Chris, tell us about your time with Raiden 3 Cross MIKADO MANIAX.
Okay, well, I might be weird because I pronounce it Raiden, but
yeah, whatever.
But it's okay. It's whatever. Yeah, it's like Darius versus Darius.
Potato tomato.
But do what?
Potato tomato.
Yeah, Clamato.
Yeah, Clamato.
So yes, this is the newest in the the newest of the two, I suppose. In the I guess this is kind of working backwards from the release of Raiden 5, which is the most current one. We went back to Raiden 4, which was an Xbox 360 era release, and then that got the MIKADO remix, and now Raiden 3. Which is the first of the 3D Raidens on its original release. We've got the MIKADO MANIAX. I don't know what the difference is between a MANIAX and a remix. It kind of seems like it's still just a remix. But I'm definitely not going to.
It is a unique name for a remix, I guess.
Yeah. It's definitely a lot of X's everywhere. Anyways, X's and lines, like that's what I'm mostly seeing here. Anyways, okay, so a little bit of history. If you are for one, this is a vertically scrolling shmup. That is short for shoot 'em up. That means you're one ship against a barrage of enemies and bullets. This one kind of straddles the line between just a classic arcade shooter, which is where it got its start, of course. It's an old game, the first one is, and it kind of straddles between that and bullet hell. It doesn't quite reach like the same levels of bullet hell, but it is frantic, like a good shooter should be. So the way it goes is that the first two Raidens were kind of they were the 2D ones. We've seen them in collections, as well as there's like a PlayStation collection and a 360 collection, and then there's also the first one was also released on the Super Nintendo as Raiden Trod, which is Raiden Trade, I don't know. But the third one is a little bit of it's kind of a frequently overlooked chapter in the series, because it came out on the PlayStation 2. I believe it was a PlayStation 2 exclusive in 2007. So the PlayStation 3 was already out. The 360 was already out. And so, the Wii was already out. So the Raiden 3 kind of just quietly snuck out there at a time when everybody kind of moved on. But it's still good, and it's also like I said, it's the first 3D entry into the series. Having said, Raiden has always been a game series of incremental improvements, so that kind of tells you, as far as like the 5 game series goes, this one's smack dab in the middle. So yeah, the MIKADO MANIAX. I had to actually look at the title again. The MIKADO MANIAX. It basically takes this game and kind of does more or less the same thing that they did with Raiden 4 MIKADO Remix. It is the same game. It's the same 7 levels. It's the same ship. Yes, one ship. You don't select from multiple ships in this one. And 7 levels does sound like pretty short for a shmup, and it kind of is, but also it is legitimately challenging, and it's not a rich kid strat game, so you actually do have to beat this one within the allotted lives and continues. And the levels are really, really cool. The bosses are just more or less like large vehicles and stuff, so maybe not as impressive as some other games that you might be used to in this bountiful age of like just I'm not even gonna say oversaturation, because honestly, who can get enough? But I mean, we are eating so good, us shmup fans in the Switch and PS5 era, nowadays it is something that the game is a little light on features, which I think some folks may find refreshing, and some folks may be like, well, this is like, I got 10 games that can do like so much more than this, and I'm not even a fan. Like literally there's 2 buttons in the game. You move around, you shoot your shot, and you blow up a bomb. The bombs are screen clearing, which is kind of cool, and they kind of happen immediately. That's definitely reflective of like the what was kind of going on in 2007, is that with cave shooters coming up and everything like that, and people definitely didn't have time for just area of effect bombs with a delay, which is what the previous games had. So this one brought in screen clearing bombs. You may remember the Raiden has, well, I don't know if you may remember, but I did mention it in my last review, is that Raiden has like basically a couple different kinds of shots in the game. So you got your classic spread shot, right? And then you have this weird laser that kind of like, it moves with your movement, and if it gets powerful enough, it like, well, at least in 4, I think it would like it would grab multiple enemies at a time and stuff. I didn't ever see this one do it, so it might not have done that, but that's like, those are the classic Raiden shots. And then this one introduced the Godzilla shot, which is a big blue straight ahead beam that like eviscerates everything right in front of you, but has no spread whatsoever. Those are not my favorites. I like a spread shot, and considering how many enemies drop power-ups, and the power-ups are actually on a timer, so it's like you might accidentally lose your weapon, and that can actually cause you to die if you don't pick up a weapon that you're actually wanting to get. Or else it turns the power-ups into another obstacle to evade. So not my favorite system, but that is how it is in this game. But yeah, like I said, this new version basically takes that Raiden 3 experience, and they kind of gussied it up for HD. They really didn't change anything in the game itself. So really what it is it's kind of an aesthetic improvement. So, like they say, the fresh coat of paint, and several wallpapers. You actually unlock wallpapers as you gain more score in the game. So I think it's a cumulative score that you're keeping track of. So basically, as you play the game, you're just going to unlock everything, supposedly. And then, the background music, on top of having the classic music, it now has remixed music by, I do believe, the same people who worked on 4, but it's hard to tell because they use code names and band names so much. So I'm just going to say it seems like it's the same. Otherwise, they wouldn't put that same MIKADO name on it. Anyways, so one cool thing about the soundtrack is that you can actually decide ahead of time, instead of deciding in the game, like which kind of background music you want. And you can actually assign it to each stage. So if you like the remix version of level 4, but not level 3, go ahead and set it that way and then start the game. So cool. Actually, I think that's actually really, really cool. But yeah, like, it's also got online rankings as you do. It's got, some modern accoutrements such as Tate mode. So, you don't have to deal with the wallpaper at all. You can just turn your big old TV on its side and play the game, vertically, which is really, really good. I really recommend everybody try Tate mode on a real TV, like at least once. It's so fun. If you have the stuff to do it with. But yeah, like really, again, like 4, it's like it's the game. It is the game, and there is extra stuff here. It's just, since they're counting down from Raiden 5, and like I said, these games have been incrementally improving, Raiden 3 kind of ends up in this weird position. So it's kind of like, if you're not a fan of these kind of shooters, this would be the last one you would want to purchase. But if you are into shooters, then, this is a really great, chapter to kind of add in. And again, because of its relative obscurity, it's really kind of cool that they're paying any attention to it at all. So,
Well, I messed up in the intro and said it was $39. It's actually $29.99.
It is $29. I was going to correct you, but
why didn't you wiener?
Well, I only know the Switch price because I'm looking at it right now.
Yeah, it's $29.90. So for $30, what are your thoughts on this game?
Like I said, $30. I mean, this is a great way to play Raiden 3 because really your only other option is to just seek out a PlayStation 2 disc. And who's still hooking up their PlayStation 2s nowadays?
You.
Yeah, me. It's right here. It's hooked up. But yeah, so, you can play the original and you can play this one. I really appreciate that they came out with it because, on the 360, they came out with like Raiden Collection Aces or whatever, which is the first 2 games, and then they came out with 4, and that's it. And now 5's out, so it really feels like it's completing a family. Like it's like I said, it's not my favorite shooter, but it's a well-respected shooter in the community, and so for that reason, I would basically say if you're not a huge shmup fan, if you're not already a Raiden series fan, really, I mean, 4 or 5 is going to be better. If you're going to buy something, then, I would actually just say go with 5 and then maybe work your way back. But if you are a Raiden fan, then I do give this a buy it because it's a worthwhile collection. It's not too pricey. I believe there's a physical version since it's NIS.
Yep.
Yeah. And so, I might even pick that up myself since I didn't get the Switch version.
I think it's the physical that's 40. I think that's what was messing up my...
okay.
My infos.
Gotcha. So it's a buy it for the fans and a try it for everyone else.
Cool. Next up, Candle Night, developed and published by Dracma Studios, released May 31st on Steam for $14.99. Never let your light go out. Wield a powerful flame, overcome menacing creatures, and explore the shadows of a ruined castle in this compelling 2.5D action-adventure platformer, which features a unique dynamic difficulty system. Pernell, tell us about the unique dynamic difficulty.
So, yeah, that's the one. That's the ticket. So Candle Night is, like you just described, it's a 2.5D platformer where you are a literal candle knight. Well, he's not made of wax or nothing, but he is a little knight person, reminiscent of something like the game Clockwork Knight back on the Saturn. But he has a wick on his head, essentially. A wick that can be set alight. And as he walks around, he has a sword that he can attack with by swinging and attacking enemies. He can also defend using a shield that he also eventually finds. And what makes this stand out in this unique way, there you go, with the dynamic gameplay that they described, is exactly the wick on his head. Because as you attack enemies and do damage to them, you will further ignite the wick on your head, represented by a gauge on the upper left corner of the screen. The more ignited you are, the more damage you do. But the more ignited you are, the more damage you'll also receive. So there are 3 stages of ignition you can be in. There's the weakest level of the flame, which means your defense is higher, but your attack is weak. There's the middle level, where they're balanced. Your attack and your defense are on equivalent levels. And there's the max level, where your attack is stronger, but you're practically a glass cannon. You take massive damage when you get hit by things. And what that results in is a weird tug of war where not only are you playing this game with the understanding that, well, if I want to just do damage to guys and I feel like I got the enemy patterns in this area down, I can just run around and beat the stuffing out of dudes with my max ignition and just kill them quicker. But you might also find yourself in a situation where you feel as though you can't really handle the enemies that are in the area, or you might be being a little bit on the clumsy side, so you'd rather let your heat go down specifically so you can take more hits before you die. Now, your ignition itself doesn't actually stay maxed out for indefinitely. Things that make it go down are if you block an attack, your ignition goes down 2 stages. So when I say stages, I mean like 4 stages equals 1 ignition. So you block something, it goes down 2 of those. If you don't attack enemies for an extended period of time, it will naturally go down. And also, though I never quite got the button to work for me in the way that the description made it sounds like you can also press a button and hold it down to intentionally let your heat go down. Never quite worked for me. Also didn't care because I was glass canning it up because I ain't got no shame in that game. However, if you do die, they hit you with that Dark Souls logic where any currency you died with stays on your corpse. You spawn back to the last place you saved or ignited it's more like a gourd or a chalice. And you'll start from there. You can go back and retrieve the money you dropped. Money, that's right, because you're exploring the castle areas. You'll come to occasionally across treasure chests that will have gold in them, and enemies will also leave small amounts of gold when you defeat them. And as you're running around, you'll occasionally come across a merchant that will sell you various things. He might sell you some one-time use items that will heal your life or increase your ignition gauge. He might sell you new swords and shields, though they don't really have any particular special properties to them. Like, you're not going to get like the sword that makes your attacks throw a beam. It's just, I do more damage with the sword. And that's fine. I mean, you're just buying more juice to do your damage. And he also comes with the occasional colorful commentary. Now, it's interesting in the sense that this is like, you said the description said 2.5D Metroidvania, or did it say 2.5D platformer?
2.5D action-adventure platformer.
Thank God. Okay, I feel better. All right, so because some people might see screenshots for this game and think, oh man, this is Metroidvania. And while in the normal scope of things, you might see a few similarities in the sense that you will occasionally find some abilities that will allow you to explore other areas or get around better. This game is less about a series of interconnected areas and more about, hey, every once in a while you might be going back to this place by way of a shortcut and use like your wall jump to now go to this place. But it's not that deep in the sense that you're going to be checking a map because there is no map. So you won't be checking a map to go, how can I get from here to there now or whatever. It's just if you remember it or the pathway naturally guides you in that direction, you'll end up there. And one thing I do like also about the traversal of the game is not just walking from left to right and going from place to place. There's also an interesting mechanic where every once in a while you'll come across a painting, and when you come across that painting, you can enter it. And it's kind of like a little sub-level. Think like Super Mario Odyssey, how you have those little occasional like snippets where you would go to like 8-bit Mario mode or whatever, except you're not going 8-bit here. You're just going to a smaller space. And you're platforming around, getting through that, and when you come out the other end of the painting, you'll end up somewhere else. You might still be in the same location, but on a different part of it. You might be in a completely different area of the castle. But the paintings get you places. They will move you around, and you'll have to get used to being like, I guess this set me up here. Guess I'll keep going. The game I do find to be fun, but there are a few things that might turn some players off of this game that I noticed. One, I mean, admittedly, I play this on the deck. These days, especially now my computer's in the damn shop, I'm generally playing games on the Steam Deck. In the case of this game, the controls are fine, the button mapping is fine, but the game seemed to have some not slowed down issues so much as just being slowish. Like it was it wasn't a smooth, like high frames per second sort of deal, which doesn't generally bother me as long as it's smooth enough that I can get around and accomplish things without being able to blame the game for me taking a hit or missing a dodge or a block. But people who are expecting like top notch on their games, they will notice it. And it does feel like a slight performance issue there. The other thing about it is that while you can guard enemies and the like, and they do occasionally give you a sort of prompt that states that, hey, I'm about to do an attack or whatever, but shield up or get out the way, the way the prompt works in contrast to the way, I guess, the visual indication of you striking an enemy takes place in, it's hard sometimes to notice that they're giving you the prompt that this guy's about to charge at you or he's about to swing his sword at you, because you're seeing clank, 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 and you're not seeing oh crap, that's not my sword hitting him. That's him preparing to beat the snot out of me. I got to get back. So that's something I get used to. It made me want to play in a sense where like I got in and got out. I wasn't waiting for the prompt. I just knew if I keep attacking him, I'm not going to see the prompt and I'm going to take damage. So I'm going to strike a few times and get the hell out of dodge while I still can. But aside from those things, I mean, I did find the game to be enjoyable. Like I didn't get a bunch of crazy new abilities, so much as just the occasional new ability. I wasn't getting a bunch of crazy new attacks. I got a block and a stab. And that's what the game's trying to do for you. Again, like Clockwork Knight was back on the Saturn. But I enjoyed what I got out of this. I'm a sucker for games where you're a tiny person exploring a big place. I don't know what it is about me. And also, I just find it kind of hilarious that this castle is this damn big, even as a tiny person. There's a lot of ground to traverse here, and it's dilapidated. It's like puddles everywhere and a mess, which is not good for a little candle man, but it's kind of nice. And also, just as a small oddity, I thought it was kind of cool how you didn't just fizzle out if you went into the water. The only thing that matters about you getting wet is your head. So you can walk in water if there's a pathway in it. Just can't get your head wet. I like the game. So I feel as though it's worth a try, at least on the try it scale. But maybe over time they may even do some patches to get the smoothness on the performance up to the point where it feels like high frames per second or something too.
I like how I don't even get to ask you anymore. Just right to it.
I kind of barrel in, but you can always get that redundancy and just so I can pinpoint the exact statement. There.
Nope, moving on. Next game to talk about, LASERPITIUM, developed by the REETEAM, published by eastasiasoft, released May 31st on Xbox One, Series X and S, Switch, PS4, PS5 for $14.99. Blast off on a critical mission to free the galaxy from artificial governance in the side-scrolling 2D shoot-'em-up. Chris, what's going on in whatever the hell this game is titled?
Well. Another shoot 'em up. Fortunately, I don't have to explain what a shmup is now, so like this review will be even shorter. Okay, so LASERPITIUM. I think it's LASERPITIUM. I don't know.
That's my guess too.
Yeah, nobody has come forward to pronounce it to me. It could be LASERPITIUM. Excuse me. Okay, so. This is a horizontally scrolling shoot 'em up, and it is an indie thing. Stark contrast to Raiden 3, of course. This one is actually 2D, very flat, and scroll sideways. So in this one, I don't know what the story is. I tried to read it a couple of times, and I've been so sleep deprived that if I start to read any words, I just fall asleep. So this game is basically, you blast your way through 10 levels, mini bosses, all that stuff. The art style is really cool. It's basically like, it's all hand drawn, but you can kind of tell that like different pen types and, different contrasts and such were used for like the background and the foreground. Like the foreground is a lot more detailed and such. The background kind of moves in a parallax sort of way, which is kind of cool. Except that, when I was like, I noticed that my ship is got a little bit darker lines and higher contrast than the enemies. And so I just could not help as soon as I started playing this game, I was like, oh, my ship's a shrinky dink. If any cool old people remember what a shrinky dink is.
Oh man.
But it kind of looks like
those are so fun to like. They never looked as good as the commercial though.
No. And I mean, and it's not to this game's detriment. It's exactly what it reminded me of, and it filled me with glee. So
because my computer making noises for. I just heard a boom.
Uh-oh.
I don't see anything.
Some kind of raid horn or something. I don't know. Yeah. Okay, so in this game, you basically... Oh, there we go. There we have them. in this game, you have a selection of ships that each have different shots. The controls of this game are extremely simple. Again, just like the last game, you have 2 buttons. One button is your primary weapon. The other button is your secondary weapon. That's right. There are no bombs. There's no screen clearing gimmicky like things to, get you on your way. However, the game really piles on the lives. After playing the game for just a bit, I think my loadout's like 15 lives. And you also tend to get 3 shots. Like you have like a health bar of like 3. It may change based on the ship. I actually didn't pay that much attention, but you can usually take a shot or 2 before you die. Additionally, you don't take damage from the ground or ceiling, so it's not like Gradius style or Darius style. You can actually scrape the floor and you'll be fine as long as the screen doesn't crush you, which of course is always the perennial obstacle when it comes to these kind of shmups. So anyways, you have 3 ships, and they each have 2 different weapons. They're actually, I'm not going to use the word, they're somewhat different than what you would expect. And there is a variety here. Your first ship will shoot forwards as its primary weapon, and backwards as its secondary weapon. It's exactly just 1-to-1. It's the exact same shot in both directions. But you can only choose one direction, is the thing. They got you. I found that one to be the most efficacious in this game because there's a lot of enemies that come up behind you and stuff. And when I switched to an all front-loaded character, which is the second ship, then I found I was having a little bit of more trouble. But gosh, I love the second ship because it's the spread shot ship. It has a high-powered frontal beam as its primary weapon and a diagonal beam with no frontal beam as its secondary weapon. So it's a spread shot, but in a different way. Like you have to actually switch between the 2 shots to really get the full range. The third one is a real oddball. It's a ship that shoots lightning. That is a homing lightning thing, which you would think, oh, that's awesome. Except it doesn't always work. I believe it's on some kind of energy meter that fills up either over time or with gathering points. I think points are the fuel. The game doesn't really explain it, but sometimes my weapon straight up wouldn't work, so I abandoned that ship with the quickness. Like I said, it's pretty well put together. The enemies are pretty interesting and, usually kind of match the level that they're in. Like your first level is like a jungle level, and you got enemies that are fashioned after insects. Other stages take place in other kind of backdrops. There's a snowy mountain that's pretty cool, and I'm trying to remember the other one I just saw it. Anyway, whatever. Either way, I quite enjoy the aesthetic of the game. It's got a pretty good soundtrack too, but honestly, it's just kind of besides the points that I just gave you, it's kind of just by the book. There's not really any amazing surprises or particularly shout-worthy things happening here, but that's all right. I mean, us shooter fans aren't always about the about the what do you call it, the razzle dazzle. There are unlockables. The razzmatazz, yeah, the old razzle dazzle. There are some options that get unlocked with gameplay, so there is stuff to work for. There's also an online leaderboard. Weirdly enough, the training mode is actually it just says allows you to activate the training mode, which is in the main menu, right? So, but you have to beat the game on normal difficulty, which is the middle tier, or higher, to get training mode. And I'm like, if you've beaten the game on normal, surely you don't need much more training, right? I mean, I don't know. But I don't know because it's disabled, so I haven't really, it's whatever. And ultimately, if you really are pretty insane, then if you beat the game on its highest difficulty using less than 10 lives and 5 lives respectively, you can unlock unlimited lives and unlimited energy. So
nice.
That's kind of cool too. Basically, you can play this game until you're just invincible, and then you're just at that point,
Then you are invincible.
Then you're just doing whatever. So there you go.
Well, the game's $14.99. What are your thoughts on this one?
It's a charming little game. I think it earns its $15 for sure. Definitely, I mean, it's longer and you get more ships than Raiden, which is twice as expensive. So, it kind of just depends on what you're looking for in a shooter. But yeah, for you shooter fans out there, I'm going to go ahead and give this a buy it. It's maybe not the top of the line as far as like what $15 can get you, but you'll certainly enjoy the experience. So, I'm going to say it's good.
Cool. Next up is DOOMBLADE, developed by Muro Studios, published by Iceberg Interactive, released May 31st on Steam for $14.99. Deep underground Gloom Girl discovers DOOMBLADE, a sentient weapon hell-bent on escape after eons in chains. Together, Doom and Gloom embark on a vengeful quest to unlock powerful abilities, destroy the Dreadlords once and for all in this 2D action. Pernell, they say it, Metroidvania.
Oh boy! But at least in this case, I feel like it fits the thing. I just think the words don't, but it does fit the actual concept. The word, it means what it means here, so I'm okay with that.
But in the case of Castleroid,
no, I'm still trying to settle on something that I think doesn't sound like hot garbage, but also conveys what the games are. No, that sounds like hot garbage, but I like it. It conveys. Most people do, I know.
And stop being weird.
The problem is, I stand by my point. The issue is more so that people don't even use it properly anymore. They just say it for any fucking thing ever. Like, they do. Connected levels. It's a Metroidvania. That's a fucking Metroid. Get over it. Anyway, actually, not talking about. No, this is a Metroid, not a Metroidvania. Fuck. Anyway. Get to the point. The game. What are we talking about? DOOMBLADE, the actual game, portrays you as a character that goes by Gloom Girl, who is a gloomling, kind of trapped in a pretty messed up, like, underground world, and her people are enslaved there. One day, she hears a voice calling out to her, so she walks and jumps towards it across a series of corridors, and eventually she comes across something called DOOMBLADE, a sentient weapon that's in chains because the leaders of the world, the Dreadlords, locked it away because it is pretty much capable of destroying everything that they have in power. And it also sounds like it's a being of absolute destruction. So maybe not the best thing to have running loose in your world, except for when you are already living a miserable life. And this sword promises you revenge against the people that have enslaved your people in exchange for freeing it and helping it restore its power. So you rescue the DOOMBLADE, and Doom and Gloom go on a massive killing spree to find and destroy the Dreadlords. And one thing I will say about this game is that I wasn't expecting the combat style I got, but I am very pleased with it, though it has a few hiccups that I'm getting used to that didn't ruin the game for me. Mostly the fact that this game reminds me of another game that very few people play but should have, called Noito Love 2 Devolution. In that game, you were a character that could run around and hop and jump, and your method of attacking was by moving your mouse cursor to enemies, clicking on them, and your character would just run up on them and start beating the snot out of them. Same kind of goes in this game. If you're playing on a keyboard and mouse, you can move around with the keyboard and use your mouse to select enemies, and when you contact them and press the button or click the mouse button, you'll dash toward them and attack. If you're playing on the Steam Deck like me, you can either use the right thumbstick and the right trigger to do the same thing, or you can actually touch the screen, and based on where you touch, you'll just immediately go up to the enemy if you touch an enemy that can be dashed towards. So pretty decent stuff. Controls work well there. There's only a few caveats that can make it a little bit of a hiccup style for people, especially if you're getting a little frustrated at things, because you're going to die a lot in this game. Just get that out of the way. And that is, a lot of enemies have a cooldown when you do your dash strike towards them. So in that case, you need to get used to the idea of, okay, hit him. Now get the hell away from him, because he might attack me while I'm sitting there trying to beat his face in, and I can't counter against him. Other enemies, however, will allow you to just kind of strike on them like crazy, as long as you have the finger tenacity to keep clicking until they die. They might not even have a counterattack. Those enemies, I like beating the crap out of. They make me feel like a big man. But you start to get the understanding and the flow of when to stay and when to go when you're smashing into enemies. And what ends up becoming especially cool as you get better at the game is when you start getting in the scenarios where you got to fight like mobs of enemies at once, you become dash and smash guide. You're smacking a guy, dashing to this guy, smacking that guy, dashing that guy, smacking him. All the while staying in the air and just beating things up. But enemies don't generally just stand and take it either. Like, there are enemies that fire projectiles. There are enemies that have shields requiring you to get around those shields. And there's enemies that are just straight up aggressive brawlers. And what that ultimately means for you as Doom and Gloom is that you are going to be having to get well acquainted with the abilities that you can acquire throughout your adventure, and also just with the general mechanics of the game. Because sometimes you are going to find yourself getting frustrated as you try to dash behind an enemy and you don't quite get the timing right on who you clicked on, and you dash into the wrong thing and you bounce off the shield and the heat-seeking bullets hit you and boom, you're dead. Trust me, it's going to happen a fair bit. But it's never happened to me enough that I felt as though the game was unfair or that I just couldn't manage it. It does help that the game is pretty generous with where they set the checkpoints up for when you do die against like major opponents. So don't let that distract you. However, one thing that does kill me about this game, which means that if you play this game, know it going in, is that a lot of modern day Metroidvania games allow you to use a map to kind of display to you what places you've been to with icons showing you might want to come back here, or you haven't explored everything here, or there's an item that you didn't pick up and you left it behind. Get your ass back. Usually good for when you get new abilities that allow you to traverse the areas just slightly off of where you've been. This game has no such thing, which makes it a completionist nightmare. You will find yourself coming across objects that will be useful to get money, potentially new pathways to get further into the game, and you have no visual indication on your map that that's what's going to happen if you go back to that place. Now, obviously, you might find yourself thinking, well, but Pernell, you'll obviously know because there'll be like a black splotch cut off showing you didn't complete that shape of the room, which means you can get into a certain area that you couldn't before. Well, not so much in this game. You will have scenarios where you fill in the entire zone. The room looks like you've been through it, but you still need to go back because you might have left the item in there, or you need to use like one of my favorite abilities in the game, which is Shadow Form, which allows you to attack through walls, which opens up a lot of cool possibilities for both attack and also exploration. But you'll need that kind of thing like, oh, I can dash to the end, I can dash to the wall now, because there's an enemy over here that I couldn't reach before, but that'll allow me to traverse to get to the other side and explore further. You'll have to become pretty acquainted with the map and how to get around, which also means if you're the type of person that's like me, who can play a game, put it down for a long period of time, and then say, I'm going to go back and see if I can finish that. Don't do that with this game. If you're going to play this, saddle in for the long haul so that you have current memory of things you left behind. Maybe like you'll get like flash in the pants thoughts like, oh yeah, I do feel like I recall green slime on a wall in that general area or whatever, so that you'll be able to get around and not have to do as much retreading as you would do if you didn't remember. Because trust me, even if you remember, you're still going to do a fair bit of retreads. There are some teleportation stations you'll come across where you can access these flying void squids that will rocket you from one point to another. But even still, they're spread out a fair bit, so much so that even when you use those, you're not going to just be like, oh, I'm going to just warp away. I'm not going to warp away. Now you got to run way over to the teleport pad and then use it to get across the map. So you'll be doing a lot of backtracking and retreading. But with that said, I still find this game to be fantastic to play. Like, I love the music. It's a very metal/moody music styling. The art in the game is really cool. They did a good job of making this sort of hellish but also lush world come to life. And the humor/aggression in the game is just the right levels as well. I find this to be a good title, and I'm surprised I came across it like I did. So thank you for giving me a chance to review this, because I was preparing to buy it. But now I don't have to. But if I didn't have access to this for free, Joe?
Why do you guys have to mention it's 15.
Because we get review copies. That's literally it. And it's a good segue to your question.
Buy it, but oh well, it's
no, I don't buy. I mean, I wasn't going to.
Now you can gift it to someone else.
No, man, I'm poor.
Is it worth $15?
I absolutely think it's worth $15. Just know that if you're the type that's going to hear me say the word buy it, pick it up, and then get pissed that you got to do a lot of backtracking, I warned your ass. But as you're okay with the stuff I said as the potential caveat, absolutely worth buying. This game is good.
Cool. All right. Next up is Zombie Derby 2, developed and published by Brinemedia, released June 1st on Xbox One, Series X and S for $4.99, Windows 10 store for a separate $4.99. Brutal upgradable cars, big guns, and daredevil speed will steer you through places that are chock-a-block with zombies. Chris, how was your trip through the chock-a-block zombie-filled? I just chock-a-block is amazing.
What? Okay. So Zombie Derby 2. So yes, this is a game where you get a car and you run it into zombies. It's kind of that simple, except that I was actually picturing something a little bit more Destruction Derby-ish. Like, I guess I had Wreckfest on the brain. So I was thinking, I'm going to be driving around an area and mowing down zombies for points or something like that. That's a good time. There actually was a European, I believe, game back in the aughts, back in the Raiden 3 era, called Zombies versus Ambulance, which I love as a title. It's just where you drive an ambulance into a bunch of zombies, and that's pretty much it. That's the entire game. So this game is actually, instead of driving around a thing, you are fixed to a plane. You're basically going in a straight line. You cannot turn left or right. You are just going perpetually forward and or stopping. So in that sense, it's a little bit of a zombie runner, kind of thing. So yeah, you basically, you get a few points, you unlock a vehicle. You get to do a tutorial stage with one of the best vehicles first, but then that vehicle ends up in the lake. So it says, this vehicle's gone. Now you have to buy a new one. And of course, the new one you buy is like the most simple, inelegant one possible, just a jalopy essentially. And, so what you do is you get a shop and you get to buy upgrades for your truck or your car or whatever. And, of course, one of the first things you're going to want to buy is a bulldozer plow, because that is how you're going to plow into zombies and also get through, inanimate objects and things like that. You can also purchase better fuel, better tires, better, what's essentially a nitro boost, which kind of works differently. We'll explain that in a second. And, just as much stuff as you can afford, because basically you're going to go into a stage and you're going to keep going until you run out of fuel, because that is what's going to happen until you've got maximum fuel and enough other stuff to kind of conserve it. The game does not let you win easily as far as that goes. But here's the thing. The game is all about that progressive growth. So even if you stall out and, presumably get murdered and eaten by zombies as a result, you get to keep your points. And so when you get back to the shop screen, maybe you can afford more gas now. So it's one of those kind of things where the gameplay loop is very centered around saving up and purchasing upgrades to machines so that you can even pass the level, because you bought enough stuff rather than, skill or anything like that. But you bought enough stuff, so now you can get through the level and unlock another level, which unlocks another vehicle, which unlocks a whole other set of stuff that you have to buy. And so that's the loop, ad infinitum or whatever. Having said, this is actually a very fun game. It's very I don't know. I'm gonna say Dreamcast era for the graphics. Not too far away from the 90s, essentially. But you do, when you drive your car through the stages, you are plowing into zombies. They spray blood. You get a spray bonus, in fact, if you can get enough of them squished at the same time. Their bodies fall apart in predictable, chunks, all kind of the same way. Zombies are very control P, or control C, control V, as far as that goes. You often will end up with the same exact zombie just copied and pasted 3 times on the road at the same time. So, it's not a...
To be fair, I'm not looking for hyper detailed and hyper realism in a $5 game.
No.
This is one that we got it on Windows 10 for you to check out. and I got an Xbox copy to check out so I could chime in on things.
Nice.
I bought the Windows 10 version because I really enjoy these games. I had fun with the first Zombie Derby. It's just like a fun hour or 2 hours that you could sit down, go through a few stages, kill some zombies, get some achievements, and move on with your life. And I think it was absolutely worth the $5 I spent.
Oh yeah. That's what I was coming up to, is just saying it's not a it's not a scary game at all. It's not a top of the line thing, but I mean, gosh,
it's
I kept
scary
going back
how
to it.
fun the game is.
Oh, well, there you go.
That was dumb. What are your thoughts? $5, your verdict?
$5. I mean, it's kind of a fuck it, why not, really? But also, like I said, I did keep coming back to it. I definitely wanted to get in on some more driving over zombies action. The thing it kind of reminded me of a lot, even though it wasn't as high stakes, was Excite Bike. And like I said, it's kind of fun to like balance out the nitro and use your machine guns to like blow up things that'll cause you to like slow down and lose gas. Like, there's actually some strategy involved here. It's not just flinging your vehicle at a bunch of zombies. So yeah, I was quite pleased with this one.
Cool. All right, we got one final game to discuss tonight. It is a preview of Quilts and Cats of Calico, developed by Monster Couch, published by Monster Couch and Flatout Games. Going to be releasing later in 2023 on Steam. Quilts and Cats of Calico is a wholesome digital adaptation of the award-winning puzzle board game for 1 to 4 players. Meet adorable cats and sew the coziest quilts. Compete with other players in multiplayer mode, play solo, or delve into the story of a quilter sewing their way through the city of cats. Pernell, you check this one out. We also got in some written impressions from our friend LadyMagritte. Would you like to hear hers first?
Sure.
All right, she writes in, the game has 2 main modes, the board game and the campaign mode. Unfortunately, the demo didn't have the ability to play against others to get a real feel for that aspect, but I played a fair amount of games against the AI and I had a grand time. Might not seem like other board games with its cozy cat cover, but it has many objectives you'll find familiar in other games. You have multiple ways to capture points by matching patterns and colors of quilt and ways to attract cats to your quilt for bonuses. Attracting cats seemed harder than I expected. The tutorial was sufficient to get to know the basics, but I found the campaign mode prepared me better for making the right combinations of quilt pieces to attract a cat. Campaign mode was more of a puzzle session than the quilt board points battle, and I liked that a lot. Graphically, I thought the texture work was fabulous. I'm also really excited about the cat sliders advertised in the trailer to design my perfect Digicat. It was a shame that wasn't available in the demo, or I missed it somehow. I feel like there have been a lot of digital adaptations of physical board games, and a lot of them don't translate well. I'm not that familiar with the physical version of Quilts, but I felt it was done well. Monster Couch also made Wingspan as a digital adaptation for board game. That game was both beautifully done and cumbersome at the same time. Either this game adapted better to digital, or they learned some lessons along the way. Pernell, what are your thoughts on Quilts and Cats of Calico?
Well, I didn't mess with the campaign, so she definitely got me there. I mainly focused on just playing, like versus modes, because I wanted to just do I want to get a feel for the game itself. And what I did come to learn is that Calico is a game that I've been interested in since it actually launched in the physical variety, in the physical state, but never got around to buying it, partly because I thought the game was going to be particularly light fare, cute cat on the box, sew a quilt, And what I did come to learn from playing this is that this is a game that has simple rules that actually lead to some pretty deep, puzzly thoughts that will make the game not as simple as you would have thought it would be. Because while she mentioned the idea of get some patterns, get some quilt pieces, it's the way that the game makes you do it that adds the meat to the title. So every player gets a flat board that can have quilt hexes inserted into them as they draw them from a communal pile. However, at the very beginning of the game, you have to choose 3 different scoring conditions that will be applied to 3 specific spots on your quilt. And these scoring conditions are generally specific requests for patterns and patterns and colors. So, for example, you might have a scoring tile that says, you have to surround this tile, as in 6 tiles, around it. You surround it with 2 different sets of 2 colors and or 2 different sets of 2 patterns. So what ends up happening is you're saying out of 6 tiles, when I have surrounded this tile, 2 of them need to be, or like 4 of them need to be 2 sets of 2 different colors or patterns. If you're able to get both the patterns and the colors in that requirement style, you'll get a better point bonus than if you just got one or the other. And since you're trying to juggle 3 different scoring conditions, in which case some of the surrounding tiles overlap with other surrounding tiles, you're going to be racking your brain of like, okay, is there a tile I can use that will benefit me in both of these scoring conditions? I can slap it in right here. Do I just put something down just to get the points as I get them? Because I don't know if that tile will be there next time when I go back to it. You'll be doing stuff like that, especially considering that your scoring conditions can get a little ridiculous as far as like complexity, but the payoff will be more points. And if it was just that, the decisions would be plenty. But there's actually more. There's also, as she mentioned, trying to get the cats to come to your quilt. There are 3 different cats that will be available per game. There's a variety of different cats, but there's only 3 per game. And those cats have a specific pattern combo request that they want. So it might be one cat that says, if you can line up 3 tiles of the exact same color in a straight line, the cat will come to your quilt. Or in the case of some, I've seen one where it was like, get 7 in a row, which is stupid. But it's also worth 11 points, so it's no sleeping score bit. But if you pull it off, the cat will come to your quilt, and you'll get points for that. There's also buttons you can get applied to your quilt, which is another decision you have to focus on, where depending on like if you get a certain number of a specific color lined up, you'll get the button for that. And if you can get all 6 colors to get buttons from each one, you'll get the rainbow button, which is 3 more points. If you're listening to what I'm saying right now, you're going, that's a lot of shit. Well, guess what? That's the nature of the game. This is one of those games where I feel like it would be easier to explain if I was actually physically holding up a box and pointing to stuff on a camera. But as a result of it being a podcast, I can't. Just know you have a board that has hexes that are meant to represent quilt pieces being inserted onto, and you're making combinations of patterns and colors to score for multiple scoring conditions. And it is a heady game. The interface for this, though, is legitimately good. Again, I'm playing it on the Steam Deck, and this is a demo game, so I don't even expect them to have that full, I guess, like, format lined up for this thing. And as a result, there were a few button situations where I was like, what the hell am I supposed to push to do that? And I had to just kind of fumble about to figure it out. But at fumble, I did, and I succeeded, and the whole thing... It's what I do, man.
I just love that it doesn't matter if a game is Steam Deck verified or not, if they're still working on it, if they're still like finding information. Also, you're just like, fuck it, I'm playing on Steam Deck. I don't give a shit what they say.
Well, I mean, in my defense also, my computer exploded and it's in the shop right now, but...
Which of your 2 laptops exploded?
The good one.
Oh, man, that sucks.
Exactly. If it was the bad one, whatever, it's due, but the good one, so yeah. But thankfully, it played on the Steam Deck, which is why I can talk about it this week. But I feel like it's still worth. I mean, if it didn't work and my laptop was present, I would have played it on there. But preference is Steam Deck for obvious reasons. And the end result there was it did play well on here. It didn't have a tutorial explaining the buttons because, again, it wasn't built for that. But it does work. And I did like utilizing the interface to play the game. The only thing that annoyed me, which is funny because I'm positive it was meant to be done for like extra flavor for the game, is that as you're playing the game, cats are actually walking around on the quilt and meowing and lying down, which is cute. It's adorable, but they also lie on the patterns I'm trying to actually see to make decisions for my scoring purposes. There's a button you can press to make the cats get up and move around or get off the quilt, but it just seems like an extra step. Let me just go to options, say turn off cats, because if I'm not scoring off the cats walking around the cat mat, I don't care about it. But I know some people might go, oh, kitties, and for them, that is a bonus. You can also pet the cats. So there you go. You can push a specific combo of button, and you can pet the cats, and they will meow. So other bonus. I feel as though this is a solid adaptation, and I didn't even get to the actual the content that is not in the actual physical board game. which is fine because that can be saved for the final review when it comes down to it.
This is still just like an early. We don't even have a release date for this thing, so you were going way more in depth than I'm sure anyone expected at the studio. So they're probably like, "Hey, this guy likes our game."
Well, I do like their game. I do like it. I mean, I am a sucker for AEG games. I have a ton of them in this house. You've heard the stories. House is more board game than man at this point. Yeah, you've seen the photos. I got my games over here, man. And with that said, like, I do think Calico is a quality game. Just don't fool yourself into thinking that this is a game for like filthy casuals. I'm saying that jokingly, obviously, but this is not a game that you're just going to pick up and go, oh yeah, it's got a cat on it, which means this is freaking easy, because this is one of those easy to teach, but you need to think while you play. You're not going to play this game and just like kind of fumble your way through it. Well, you can, but you'll do poorly. So just know you're coming into a game that's at least light/medium weight. This isn't a light game. But with that in mind, it's good. So I look forward to the final release and what they bring to the table.
Sounds good. I guess since it's so far away, the only verdict we can really give is it worth a wish list?
Wish list it. Keep an eye out for this one. It's going to be a sweetie.
I should have kept track of how many times my cat jumped on my lap this episode.
Mine was amazingly
Say something, Coltrane.
See? Look at that.
I have to use the sound clip because when I pick her up, she doesn't say shit.
Because she knows she's on.
Like that sometimes.
She just jumps on my hip, back on my lap. Damn it.
Don't you wish you could just push a button to make her get off your lap?
I could push a button to make her say hi.
Oh, that's true. That's effective.
Right, Pernell?
Fucking yeah! That is true.
You could hear that now. What do you think of that?
I don't know. You gotta record something of me saying on the contrary or something. I don't know.
We need a whole soundboard of like things that Pernell says and just
shit Pernell says.
Quite the contrary. What the hell are you talking about?
Then well, look, we're working up to something. Then you can get a day off, and then we can just like do your reviews with the soundboard.
Oh God, Pernell, what do you think of this game? Well, the puzzles are annoying, but I like it. Metroidvania, whatever. Oh man, Mario's the best plumber. Microtransactions suck. Gotta go fast. There you go. Got a whole lineup right there. Just ready.
No, that is it for this episode. Big thanks again to the Party for Introverts crew for coming on, chatting about Cabernet with us. Thanks to Brooke.
The wine?
No, yeah, Cabernet. Yes, it's written down.
Cabernet wine. Mm.
It's the name of their game.
Ooh, it's a wine. I kid.
It's vampire-y.
Yes.
Yeah. It's gonna be good. Big thanks to them for coming on. Wait, what?
I said kinky.
Oh, you're back.
I've been here the whole time.
Have you really just been here quiet this entire time?
Just waiting to say the word kinky?
Well, I wasn't waiting for that, but you know, hey, anytime the situation allows it, I'm going to say it.
That's our Aki.
Oh, shit. Well, Aki, you sat here the whole show. If I knew you were still here, I probably would have tried throwing in a review for you, but we'll give you the final words. Do you have any final words to end the show?
Big booby ghost hunters are fun.
God damn it, why do I have to give you anything?
Is that an actual game? Apparently it is.
That's not the name of it, but there is an actual game about that. You'll find out about that on Thursday.
That's how we sell the future episode. Stay tuned for titties.
Big booby ghost hunters. That should just be the name of the fucking game.